Sziasztok, kellemes péntek estét mindenkinek! Eljött a februári hivatalos stream ideje. Ilyen szóló. És most az történt, hogy az előbb még 5 percen át kb. Most meg felrettek 15 percre. Úgyhogy lehet, hogy valami húzás lesz. És nem 8-kor kezdenek, hanem 4-9-kor. Na mindegy. Szóval az előzetes, hát ilyen discordos hintek alapján azt lehetett tudni, hogy ma vagy új dolgokról lesz szó, vagy ilyen Carphin torony bemutató, illetve Küklovs boss bemutató. Ugye a Carphinos toronyban, ha nézitek a lore videót, ott is beszéltünk róla, hogy ez valószínűleg egy ilyen raid insta lesz, vagy valami ilyesmi, és annak az alsó, egy-két szintje merült fel, hogy bemutatják. Aztán közben Steven elment a GDC-re, meg elment a DICE-ra, és hát szerintem ezek így, ugye az általános vélekedés szerint ezek így most nem valósultak meg. Szóval nagyjából a Carphin meg a Küklovs boss az kuka, mármint abból a szempontból, hogy nem lesz róla se, tehát nem olyan videó lesz ma valószínűleg. Szia Santa! Aztán maradt ugye még az említett új, az esetleg. De hát mivel a DICE az azt hiszem a héten volt, vagy van. Hát nem tudom, igazából bármi lehet gyakorlatilag, szóval passz. Az újnak nagyobb az esélye, mint a Carphinnak nincs esélye szerintem. Az újnak van esélye, azon kívül meg bárminek van esélye, szóval nagyjából erre lehet számítani. Ja, szia X-Mix! De most mondom, rádobtak még egy 4 órát így a kezdésre, szóval passz, nem tudom. Ja, még nézzük a chatet, hogy mit írnak. Most Steven annyira a Dyson van, hogy még most is ott van, és a hotelből fog streamelni, szóval ott meg nyilván nem olyan menő az internet kapcsolat, úgyhogy azért van egy kis csúszás, hogy ott tudjon beállítani mindent. Nem jelentik be az Alpha 2-t, Szanta. Ne is álmodj. Ügyes vagy X-Mix. Jéééé. Tuki. Úgyhogy, szia Montika. Úgyhogy, ja, hoteles internet. Múltkor mikor volt? Ilyen Montika megint. Montika kitartó. Mikor volt valamelyik, nem is tudom, vagy pár hónapja, nem olyan régen volt a novemberben, vagy mikor volt hotelből streamelt a streamet. Vagy hotelből jelentkezett be. Ja nem, várjál, a izéből, nem? A decemberi volt, nem? Kis Montika, ne töntsd fel a mikrofont, az úgy nem lesz jó gazdina. Hát Alpha 2 akármire nyilván nem lehet számítani, szóval az úgy felejt. Az úgy felejtett. Igen, tudjuk X-Mix, semmit nem csináltak, még csak makaróznak. Meg takaróznak. Meglátjuk, nekem az új egyébként tetszett, ami a tankos videóban volt. Szóval az nem... Ha azt halljátok, hogy boom, akkor a Ficó feldöntötte a mikrofontja. És éppen az a mánia egy dörgölözik a mikrofonot. Twitteren bemutatok egy animációt, a fűszálak fizikai modellje működik. Remek. De azt mutatták, amikor volt az időjárásos, meg a több is. Rém, nem? Akkor ott mutogatták, meg beszéltek a fűszálak fizikai modelljéről, meg ilyesmiről, nem abból volt? Nem figyeltem. Boom. Úgyhogy passz. De mondom, szerintem bármi lehet. Vagyis lehet csak ilyen filler stream, hogy ez kérdések, meg mit tudom én, modellek, bemutatnak ilyen karakter modellek, meg egyéb modellek, meg stúdió update, ilyesmi. Fák azért furcsán működtek, mármint melyik fák, amiket kivágott, vagy amelyiket nem vágott ki? Hát nézd, azért mondjuk a decemberi kivételével az utóbbi hónapokban azért eléggé mindig kaptunk valami érdekeset, tehát volt tank, volt ranger, stb. Szóval azért egy-két filler stream belefér szerintem. Ja, ami visszapattant, hát az direkt volt. Az direkt csinálták, hogy visszapattanjon. Ott direkt volt, hogy visszapattant. Egyébként valóban, szerintem akkor mondtuk is, hogy kicsit gumis. Bár aztán gondolom majd finom hangolják, hogy pontosan mennyire pattan vissza, meg egyáltalán. Azért jó, hogy ilyen kemény törzsű falz ne legyen, ne ilyen gumibot legyen, szóval húzásokba se kell vinni. Ajajaj. Meglátjuk. Mondjuk egy perccel korábban írják ki, akkor még nem indítom el a streamet, mert akkor látom, hogy 4 órát dobtak rajta, de együttem, aztán nem sokkal később ki is írták, hogy puf, csúszunk 4 órát, de köszi, hogy szólsz. Egyébként Santa, ha még itt vagy. Itt vagy. Annak, hogy közeledik az Alpha 2, a legjobb jele, hogyha tartják magukat ahhoz, amit mondtak, az lesz, hogy kiadják a karakterkészítőt külön és szórakozhatunk vele. Ha az kijött, akkor közeledik az Alpha 2. Legalábbis a jelenlegi infók alapján, mert azt mondták, hogy az Alpha 2 indulás előtt kiadják. Úgyhogy akkor nagyon örülhetünk. De addig... Hát belső mérföldkövek biztos vannak. Külső publikus mérföldkő, az meg ki tudja, hogy mit akar, meg mikor. X-Mi. Hát attól még messze van, hogy Star Citizen legyen. De... Hát azért nem olyan régen, mint a Star Citizen-t kezdjük ott. Illetve ugye gyakorlatilag a rendes munka az, mit tudom én, ilyen 19-20 óta folyik, mert előtte nem voltak, mit olyan, 20-an. Szóval gyakorlatilag, ha úgy veszik, akkor mondjuk 3-4 éve készül. Az meg nem sok. Húsz emberes csapat az nem fog érdemi, mármint olyan nagy volumenű munkát végezni, mint egy 150 fős, szóval... Persze, hogy nincs behatárolva a vége, mert ha be lenne határolva a vége, az azt jelentené, hogy megmondják, hogy mikor fog megjelenni, de azt nem fogják megmondani nyilván, mert akkor fog megjelenni, ha kész lesz. Ami mondjuk fájdalmas, de helyes döntés. Nem, senkinek nincs szüksége még egy New World-re, meg hasonló játékokra, amiket kiadnak, aztán a fele hiányzik, másik fele rosszul működik, az emberek egy hónap múlva lelépnek. Így van, és akkor még ebből ki is esett cirka 1 év. Bár az alatt is dolgoztak, de nyilván az valószínűleg az nem volt olyan, hogy 100% legyen, mondjuk 70-80%-os év. Plusz ugye akkor a felvétel is hát nem állt, mert vettek fel embereket, de nem olyan sokat, mint mondjuk utána már. Szóval azért itt van egy-két dolog, ami miatt az a 2017, ami ugye akkor volt a Kickstarter, az azért az nem teljesen valós időpont, mert akkor még nem volt csapat se nagyon meg egyáltalán, csak egy pár ember volt akkor még. Úgyhogy ilyen 3-4 évet mondanék mondjuk konkrét fejlesztési időre, de inkább közelebb a 3-hoz a Covid miatt. Szóval az egyáltalán semmiség gyakorlatilag. De mondom, fájdalmas, hogy akkor fog megjelenni a jelenlegiek alapján, amikor kész lesz. Mert nyilván mindenki játszani akar, velem együtt. De az kell, hogy akkor jelenjen meg, amikor kész van, mert különben ez is eltűnik a süllyesztőben 1 hónap után. Mint a New World, meg hasonlók. Aztán utána lehet próbálkozni, ezt mindenki tudja, hogy egy MMO-nál, ha az indulás bebukik, akkor az egész bukta. Utána lehet még így kapálózni, meg bármit csinálni, meg javítgatni ezt ez csak a Final Fantasy-nek jön össze, hogy egy bukásból feltápászkodik, és jobb lesz, mint volt sokkal. Ebben nem igazán valószínű, hogy lesz még egy. Szóval... az első dobásnak kell sikerülnie. Úgyhogy várunk. Ennyi. Hát jön majd a Throne and Liberty, ami gyakorlatilag Lineage 3 akar lenni, de nem az. De már most pay to win, szóval kösz. Az is olyan lesz, hogy megnézem, aztán csá, kb. Nyilván meg fogom nézni. De hát a Throne and Liberty. Meg még ami érdekel, az a Dűnés MMO, ami szintén készül, de az is ilyen túlélő MMO, tehát, ja, de majd meglátjuk, hogy az milyen lesz. Annak tök jó videói vannak, de arról semmit nem lehet tudni igazából. Jelentkeztem a bétára, aztán majd meglátjuk. Itóka, ne rohangálj. Úgyhogy ez a 2 van, meg mi van? Ja, készül az Arcade 2, de hát nyilván az megint olyan, hogy gyakorlatilag borítékoltam pay to win. Szóval az se olyan, hogy úristen, most mindjárt nekiállok, aztán azzal fogok 8 évig játszani, mert nem. Hát nyilván az is meg lesz nézve. Hát a többiről meg több ilyen említésre érdemeset meg annyira nem tudok mondani most így hirtelen. Ezt miért érzem? Ti is hamisnak halljátok ezt a zenét? Mindig jön egy szakasz, amikor hamisnak hallom ezt a zenét. De minden hónapban. De most olyan, mint amikor megnyúltam ide a magnókazettának a szalagja. Nem? Érdekes. Ja, mert nem hallod? Hallod? Mint a hamis lenne. Igen, totál el van tolva, mint amikor megnyúltam a magnó kazetta, és ilyen ilyenek vannak benne. Aztán utána elmúlik. Nem tudom, itt valami szerintem jó, de a Fire lehet rossz, mert minden hónapban ez előjön. Ezen a részen. Előtte jó. Előtte is jó. Glisszandóznak, az nem tudom mit jelent. De maga az egész ilyen hamisnak tűnik nekem. Azt mondod, hogy direkt ilyen. Érdekes. Olyan zavaró. Aha. Meg korábban nem tűnt fel, ez egy pár hónapja tűnt fel, hogy itt van egy ilyen fura szakasz. Na mondd, miket követtél? Ja, ugye egyébként játék lesz egy jó pár, ami érdekel, lesz a Starfield. Ugyebár... az arra mindenképpen rá fogok cuppanni. Egyik hangról a másik csúsznak fel. Aha. Hát nagyon furán hangzik ebben az esetben. Lesz a Starfield, meg lesz ugye a dűnésem, azt már mondtam. Mi van egy-kettő, ami úgy... A Starfield az szóló, igen, az nem MMO, persze. Az nem. De azzal biztos elhatároztam, hogy az lesz az első ilyen Bethesda-s játék, amit nem azt csinálom, mint a Skyrim-mal, meg a Oblivion-nal, meg a Morrowind-dal mindig, hogy elkezdem, aztán utána abba hagyom egy kicsit, és akkor újra kezdem, aztán egy kicsit abba hagyom, és újra kezdem, és mindig újra kezdem, és sose jutok el a végére. Annak szűk, miket hallasz? Nem tudom, de furán hangzik. De most például nem. Csak van egy rész, amikor igen, de most nem. Az nem, a Harry Potter, sose voltam Harry Potter rajongó igazából. Úgyhogy annyira nem, de hát majd, hogyha esetleg hozzám vágják ingyen, akkor megnézem, de egyébként nem hiszem, hogy pénzt költenék rá. De amúgy láttam streameket egy csomót, megmondják, hogy jó. Ja, a történet, ezt meg nem. A streameket néztem elég sokat, aztán mondja mindenki, hogy jó, meg stb. De annyira nem vonz. Sose kötött annyira Harry Potter. Univerzum. Magával ragadó? Ja, úgy maga a játékmenet az jó. Szia, Antik, hello, hello. Hát mondom, van rá, mert hogyha nagyon olcsó lesz, vagy valamelyik csomagban benne lesz, akkor nyilván, vagy bekerül a Game Pass-ba, akkor megnézem, de egyébként nem sok esélyt látom. Költeni nem fogok rá, az biztos. Úgyis van még egy csomó játék, amit játszom. Most volt a Baldur's Gate-nek a megjelenési dátum bejelentése, vagy trailere. Az augusztus vége. Az is jó lesz, remélhetőleg. Úgyhogy az is lesz. Na, még 2 perc, reméljük nem dobnak rá még egy fél órát, mert akkor lekapcsolom a streamet és újraindítom majd utána. Amikor elindulnak. Vagy amikor lejár az a fél óra. Vizus, Antik, hogy vagy? De hát nyilván legszívesebben az Alpha 2-vel játszanék, de hát az még sajnos a kanyarban. Na hát nem azt mondom, nem tudom, hogy hol. Nem tudjuk, hogy hol tartanak pontosan. Oké, mondjad. Mondjad, drága. Még van egy perced elmondani, utána fordítanom kell. Ja, hello. Hát, hello, Antik. Meg ahogy kijön a karakterkészítő, nyilván azzal is rengeteget fogunk, legalábbis fogok én streamen is időt tölteni. Úgyhogy az tuti fix. Hát nyilván az Alpha 2-vel az is tuti fix, de hát... Ja. Úgy tehát egész gyorsan telt a hét, nem? Egész gyorsan. Szerencsére. No, egy 10 másodperc. Aztán megtudjuk, hogy miről lesz szó ma. Shubidubi. Ja, nézzétek majd meg a skines videót, meg kiraktam tegnap. Azt hiszem tegnap. Adunk rá hangot. Ez az új intro zene. Ha megint. Azt a micsoda hotelszoba, az anyja. Köcsög itt.
February development update for Ashes of Creation.
Új update, tessék, új lesz, jó.
If you haven't been following us, we did release a really cute calendar with lots of lovely pieces.
Oh yeah, that was so cool.
Ja, amit mondtam a skines videóban, itt az a naptár, amit le lehet tölteni, meg kinyomtatni.
Here, came up with the concept and,
csak vasárnappal kezdődik, meg hiányzik belőle egy nap. Februárban, vagy júniusban, nem is tudom, valamelyik hónapban hiányzik belőle egy nap. Nem baj. Ez ugye új update, karakter, modellek, studio update, kérdések. Ja, most megint mondják, hogy amikor mondják nekik, hogy miért ezen meg azon dolgoznak, miért nem valami máson, akkor mindig mondják nekik, hogy különböző csapatok dolgoznak különböző dolgokon, szóval.
And it was the month of love with the Valentine's Day. We had a little guess thing that Margaret did with the studio. You put a bunch of candies in this like heart-shaped vase, and then you told everyone to kind of guess, and we had a bunch of winners, didn't we?
Yeah, we I tried to like use like heart-shaped jelly beans because this is how nerdy our engineers are. They're like, well, I know how much a jelly bean weighs, and they're like trying to math it out to guess. It was really funny.
There were some artists that wanted to render actually the size of the heart-shaped in a 3D model, I think, as well. I heard.
It's too fun. But yeah, I had like three different colors of jelly beans, and so they guessed the overall, and then each of the different colored jelly beans, and the two closest to each of them. Price is Right style, so you can't go over.
I know.
I can announce them if you want.
Nem hallottam, mert ma csak volt buli. De volt egy Valentin napi buliuk. Hát az inkább hungry volt szerintem. Meg különböző csokikat, vagy sütiket vittek be, meg ilyenek. Meg ilyen cukrokat. Így valószínűleg inkább éhesek voltak, mint...
It's a game studio. I'm surprised no designer said, hey, we should do this.
But yeah, Cody Yamamoto, because we have multiple Codys, Trad, Roy, and Kyle Grossman, and Cameron, and Jason Glenn, and Mitch Evans, and Matthew Lim all won. So those were our winners.
Hát a lényeg az, hogy csináltak Valentin napi bulit.
Person who guessed like spot on,
voltak játékok.
I believe was, let me double check, because I wrote it, because only one person guessed like spot on number.
Wow.
That was Cameron. Cameron got like the red candies exactly the amount, which was 154. And then Kyle was the closest to getting almost all of them right, because he was very close on all the guesses except for the red ones. I was like,
játék.
He was pretty good at like guessing how many were in the jar. But yeah, it was kind of fun, just fun, internal stuff. And then we had little candy, like little candy treat bags for everybody as well.
Oh, that was cool.
Mindenki kapott egy ilyen sütis zacskót, vagy sütis táskát, vagy akár.
Game designers, game folks, game developers. But with that, of course, we do have a lovely stream for you all today, which is going to be if you've never been here before, down below you can see kind of what the run of show will be, which we'll be going over reminders quick. We have a UI update. We actually had...
Hát most elmondja, hogy mik lesznek, az előbb már elmondtam. Új update, karakter, modellek, vagy art, update, studio update, meg kérdések.
And Stephen and I had a lovely chat with them, and we will be playing that.
Yeah, we noticed.
Some people don't want to do live recordings.
Right. Well, we noticed that last month when we were showcasing the tank, that there was a lot of positivity around the direction of the UI styling.
Ugye, amit mi is láttunk, hogy a tankos videóban ugye egy új típusú új volt, és ugye sokan mondták, hogy milyen jól néz ki, meg hogy pontosan milyen, és akkor úgy gondolták, hogy csinálnak róla egy adást.
It is a pretty in-depth process, and I think you guys are going to be tickled to kind of learn more about it. So
de mondjuk sokkal jobb, mint ami volt az alfegyben.
The process of how we create other things in the past, but we haven't gone over necessarily the nitty-gritty when it comes to UI. So we hope that you guys like.
Mutatják, hogy hogyan csinálják, meg miket vesznek figyelembe, meg is.
Things like this, but I think every once in a while it's nice.
one thing I want to make sure though, as you guys are seeing some of these windows, so the beginning of the kind of discussion is going to be more about the modularity and the elements of the
Az eleje az ilyen
of the UI,
modularitásról
and
lesz,
then
meg az
near the end of the
elemeiről,
conversation we show some
a
full
vége
on
felé lesz
system windows. Some of those are going to be crafting, some are going to be
ilyen
a few
kraftolós
other things.
ablak, meg különböző ilyen
Remember, it is very
látványablakok.
important to remember that we are still in active development, and
És
what
megint
you see
elmondja,
on
hogy
those windows,
amit
because I
látni
know
fogunk,
everyone out
az
there is
mind
going to start
nem a
inspecting and
végleges,
zooming and
minden
talking about all the
változik,
little numbers and
szokásos.
details that live on these system windows, that
Ez csak az
everything is
irány, amelfelé
subject to
haladnak.
change through development.
Tehát bármi
So
megváltozhat még az
take that
véglegesig.
with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And we will also be going over some character art, and there's a little bit of a concept art for environment that's part of that as well. And then we'll do a story update and
pálya art is lesz, tehát ilyen környezeteket is mutogat
so
meg.
definitely
Little
stay
teaser.
all the
Meg
way
lesz egy
till
kis
the end.
teaser arról, hogy mi lesz legközelebb. Ó!
But, with that, we'll just get right into the quick updates.
Na de
First
ne
and foremost, we
hype-oljuk fel
have
magunkat,
our
na meglátjuk.
YouTube subscriber comment. So if you'd like
Kiemelt
your,
YouTube-os komment.
your comment
Mik
spotlighted, all you have
mik
to do is
a tervek
follow
arra nézve,
our-
hogy
subscribe to our YouTube
jutalmazzátok
channel
a
and comment on our
felfedezést?
development updates. So
Például
whenever we
lesznek
put this video up,
titkos
we
vagy
will be able to
rejtett
see who folks who
küldetések,
are subscribed to
vagy
us.
titkos
And this
ajtók, vagy
comment today
zónák,
is
amiknek
from
nincsen nyomuk,
Fishtoes
csak hogyha
8901. Maybe they're a
van egy
Tolmar,
bizonyos
but they asked
csapatösszetétel, akkor össze lehet dolgozni, és el lehet oda jutni, és akkor különböző jutalmakat lehet megszerezni. Ritka tárgyakat, vagy egyedi tárgyakat, amik limitáltak, és csak egy vagy néhány darabon belül szerverenként. Ez mondjuk jó kérdés. Jó lenne, hogyha lenne ilyen. Sokan nem szeretnek felfedezgetni, mert hogy unalmas, meg minek. Aztán ez adna egy izét neki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Igen.
Boy, their exploration is a huge part of
Azt mondja, a
the game,
felfedezés az
and
nagy
there
része a
are a lot of
játéknak,
systems that are dedicated to rewarding
és
exploration.
sok rendszer arra
I don't
irányul, hogy
know,
jutalmazza a
many of you
felfedezést.
who have been following for a while now, circa 2018-2019, we gave a few pre-alpha demonstrations around some utility spells, the ability kind of to
A
discover
pre-alfás bemutatókban voltak ilyen különböző skillek látszottak, amik rejtett utakat mutatnak meg, meg
and
hasonlók.
those can reveal passageways that might contain hidden quests. They definitely grant exploration
És el lehet jutni
experience.
helyekre, ahol
There
esetleg
are
vannak
relics in the world that can only
különleges
be
questek,
discovered if you're in a certain location at a certain time.
vagy
There are
olyan helyek,
constellations that can
amiket
only
csak
be seen
akkor
at a
fedezel
certain
fel,
time,
hogyha
at a
egy
certain
bizonyos helyen, vagy egy bizonyos időben.
location. So, you know, it's
Hogy
kind
lesznek
of
ilyesmi.
widespread how exploration can affect many different progression paths within the game, and it's not just about kind of visiting an area once and never coming back, because
Nem csak
timing
arról van szó,
matters
hogy
as well.
felfedezel egy
So,
helyet, és soha az életben nem
you
mész
know,
vissza.
it's part of what makes an MMO an MMO, is that immersive feeling, being able to go out into the world and discover things and have those discoveries impact your gameplay to a degree.
És a
You know, that's
felfedezések
part of creating a
hatás
holistic
lesznek a
world
játékra.
that feels immersive. So exploration is a very big part of Ashes of Creation. It intersects with a lot of different systems.
Yeah. Explore, click things, look around, interact with people and NPCs who you don't, you know,
Ja, és
normally see.
NPC-kkel is
There will be
beszélgetni
things
érdemes.
for sure for you to do.
I remember
Adhatnak
in
nyomokat,
one of the
kinteket.
one game I played, they had these unique achievement system where they granted you items for kind of reaching unique
Játszott egy
locations
játékkal,
within the
ahol
world, like if you got to
különböző
the top of a
achievementeket kaptál,
mountain
hogyha
or something,
eljutottál
you'd
helyekre.
unlock- Yeah, you'd unlock like a unique achievement, and that would grant you an item that you could then
És abból
use
kaptál egy
economically in
tárgyat.
some way, shape, or form. And we don't necessarily do that for just reaching certain vistas.
Nem biztos, hogy
However, there
ilyen
are also
pontosan ilyen
treasures
lesz, de
that can exist out in the world, and maps
lehetnek
that you can
kincsek,
find
meg
that take you
térképek, amik
and kind of encourage that exploration, where you
felfedezésre
can
csábítanak.
reap a reward that is economic in gain. So that's
Kincses
also another
térkép.
Even
element.
in Alpha 1, we had a couple little jumping puzzles, and people who got there
Jumping
found
puzzle.
treasure chests that were
Aj,
there
ne,
that had
utálom
more.
jumping
So
puzzle.
don't don't worry, we'll have stuff for y'all.
Tristan loved making those jumping puzzles.
I'm certain they do. And of course, just a quick reminder of our
Ugye
monthly
ez
cosmetic
a
stopover for songs of the
februári
goddess.
csomag,
That
amiről
is scheduled from
beszéltünk, ki van a
March 8th and
YouTube-on
come
is,
up
meg
on
tudjátok
Wednesday
nézni, ha
already
akarjátok.
for you as well. And reminder that these are
A Joker
things that
stílusú
we're going to be
pályráj
using for
csomag.
NPCs, creatures,
Lila
weapons,
zöld.
and stuff like that in the world. So our goal is to kind of utilize
Ugye X-Mix?
them for design-oriented things.
And by the way, I noticed there's a few comments. I apologize. I'm not in the studio this week.
Ja, most
I'm
mondja, hogy
actually
nem a
in Las Vegas again.
stúdióban van, hanem
There
Las
is
Vegasban a...
Yes, there is a convention here for the gaming industry, for executives and kind of business
Ugye
side
ilyen
of things,
videófejlesztői,
in
vagy
Vegas, and so I'm
videófejlesztői,
here for that, but I'll be
játékfejlesztői
returning back
konferenciák
to the
vannak, a
studio
DICE, meg
today.
a
It was just a quick
GDC,
trip. I was here
stb.
just a
That's
couple
a very
days.
quick trip because you just left
I know.
like last night, right? And then
Yes,
you're coming back
exactly.
today.
Yes.
But yeah, you may see a few of us every once in a while at some of these events for this year, primarily for biz dev stuff. So but if you see us,
Olyasmi van a
Yeah, and
Zeldeszkózon
if you're a
például, de olyasmi
developer,
is
and
lehet
if
be
you know any
akármi lehet.
developers and you want to recommend them to
Kitalálunk
the
dolgokat.
studio, I will be at GDC, and perhaps a couple more in the studio will be at GDC next month as well, which is the Game Developer Conference up
De
in
nem,
San
most van a
Francisco.
DICE, és
So
akkor következő hónapban lesz a GDC.
just to keep thoughts out.
and I'll be at PAX
Na, ott is ott
East
lesznek.
and Gen Con this year, so definitely
Meg
come say
PAX
hi
East-en is ott
if
lesz
you're
a
looking
csaj.
to chat with us.
Yeah.
Meg még valami, ami nem tudom mi.
And with that, I think we are ready to move on to our UI update. I
Na,
think we'll
új
just
update.
toss it over there, and we'll see you when we return back.
Oké,
Yeah,
videó
and I
lesz.
know you mentioned this real quick. This was recorded a couple of days ago.
Ezt
So
pár napja
you're
vették
going to see
fel.
the discrepancy in the time of day. It's nighttime when
nighttime,
we were
yeah.
doing this. Yeah.
Éjjel vették fel.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun.
All right, we'll see you in a moment.
Hát akkor nézzük.
And welcome a new face to our lovely development update. We have Colby.
Colby Marchi.
How are you doing, Colby?
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Ó,
Colby.
micsoda hangja
I'm
van.
doing really well. Yeah, excited to be on the
Ooh.
live stream.
Yeah,
I
let's
know this is
introduce
the
you
first
first.
time. This is the first time we've ever actually had an in-depth focus on UI in the game, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting topic. A lot of people are going to get some insight.
Yeah.
Well, Colby,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah,
Kedvét.
well, let's see. Where to
Na,
start? I
Colby
guess
az
I've
a
been a
vezető
gamer
új
for
designer.
my entire life, as long as I've known.
Egész életében
What was the
játszott.
first game that you remember
Azt, micsoda
playing?
jó hangja van.
He came out of the womb with an Atari.
Yeah. Let's see. NES, playing some Mario.
Konzol a kezébe
All
született.
right.
Dying a lot. But yeah, so been a gamer my whole life. Got into gaming after going to school for 3D art and being a concept artist, and then eventually found my way into UI. and I've
Aztán
been doing
concept
that
artist
for
lett.
7 or 8
Aztán
years now.
valahogy
So
7-8 éve
yes.
az új
Awesome. When it
készítéshez
comes to UI,
keveredett.
what's like your favorite part about it? Like what kind of inspires you?
Akkor már elég régóta
Yeah,
dolgozik,
it's
és
kind of a mixture of things. I mean, I love being able to use all my artistic skills that I've built up over the years, but then it's kind of a cool logical puzzle, right? Where
Ja, olyan,
looking
mint egy
into
ilyen
how
logikai
people react
rejtvény.
psychologically to
Yeah.
Yeah,
Az új
the
different
készítés.
visual element of design. That always intrigues me too. There's a lot of that when it comes to communications as well, which is like, a lot of behavioral stuff. Whenever you're creating UI, it's not just you. You've got some homies as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about your team? I
Ugye
know
van
that
egy
was something you
csapata,
really wanted to do.
akivel
Be careful.
dolgozik.
Once you start naming names like Steven does, you gotta name everything.
gotta get all of them. Yeah, no, we've been super fortunate here. I came in and joined the team about a year ago, and
Egy
was
éve
joining the team with Grant
csatlakozott
and Tim, who are two
két
of our UI
másik
engineers.
Yeah.
emberrel
Um,
együtt.
And then we grew the team pretty quickly on the
Így
UI
gyorsan
art and design
felépítették
side.
a
So
csapatot.
we've got Jeff, we've got Natalie, and we have Drew, who are all helping make this all happen.
Hatan
So
vannak
everything
összesen,
you'll see
akkor,
is
vagy
gonna
heten,
be-
vagy ilyesmi.
Yeah, you guys have built actually a great team, and for the longest time, many of you guys out in the audience will know, as watching the project over time, that there hasn't been much love given to the UI front over the years. But you probably now have seen, especially with our last stream, a little bit of the peek under the hood for what's been going on with the UI team, and they have been doing an absolutely stellar
Azt mondja,
job.
nagyon
I
jó
think
munkát végeznek.
we found the magic in this team. So very excited for what you're going to show today, Colby, and the progress that everyone on your team has made for the game. I mean, it just looks great.
Yeah, we always
Yeah,
start with a lot of programmer UI, and then it comes into the beautification happens, and we're now there.
Yeah, because before you get to the point where you are really understanding and cognizant of the nitty-gritty details that a particular system might have, some of that UI work can be wasted when it gets reauthored or it gets refactored, right? And now we're at a place
De hogy
where
vannak
a
olyan
lot of
részei a
these
munkájuknak,
GDDs and
amik
these
ugye
systems are stood up,
végén kukába kerülnek, mert nincs rájuk
and
szükség.
ready to kind of have complementary UI associated with it. And that's what we, I think,
Meg sokszor
are
át kell
really excited
dolgozniuk a
about,
dolgokat.
seeing that come to life, seeing the style of it, seeing everything you guys are doing.
Jó
Looks
figyelni, hogy
great.
hogyan születik meg a
That's a great
stílusa az
transition
egésznek, meg hasonló.
into, the style element of it before we even get too crazy into showing you like the end goal. There's a lot of elements that are the steps prior to that. So I don't know if you want to
Ja,
first kind of walk
végső
us through
változat
what
előtt
goes
van egy
into
csomó
creating like a style
különböző
guide for
lépés,
UI.
vagy fokozat,
And
amit
if you
elkészítesz.
want me to bring up anything on the screen, just let me know as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into building UI.
Az a
It's
végén
not
lesz.
just, coming up with a bunch of
Mondta,
things and throwing
mondta
it
az
onto
elején, az előbb, hogy
screens. And
az a végén lesz.
we put a lot of thought into this, and we wanted to take our time to build a real good style
X-Mix.
guide, so we can, make sure our windows are consistent and.
Biztosnak vannak menni, hogy összeillenek a különböző ablakok az újban.
So we'll first bring
Now you guys are going to be
Ja, most ez azt
seeing,
akarja
and
megmutatni, hogy
Colby,
hogyan
do you wanna talk just a little
csinálják meg a
bit
stílusát az
because
egész
a lot of people
újnak.
probably aren't accustomed to that modular
Nem
approach
tudom, hogy
and
hány
how you
perces videó,
kind of
most nem
define these
mondták.
borders and whatnot. Give them a little bit of context to what they're about to see. They're going to see some of these elements and be like, what is this?
Most különböző elemeket látunk majd.
We'll show you a lot of little pieces that are going to be
Kis
part of a
részeket,
bigger picture eventually. So
amiből majd összeáll a
we really
nagy kép.
start with like shape language and all these little components.
Ezek
And,
ilyen
we start
keretek.
designing out what are the motifs, these like, simple the graphic elements that
Keret variációk.
what is the Ashes of Creation UI? What is it all going to look like? And so we start with a lot of explorations. Like this is just a small chunk of what we've worked
Ez a
through.
napos, ez itt jól néz ki.
And we're using those to start building up and make what
Megesse rossz itt ez
you'll
az.
see. So like these will be like the corners of
Mondjuk ez egy kicsit olyan
window
furi.
frames, and these will be what determines what the line breaks look like. And I
Megse
know it's all very
rosszak.
subtle, and a lot of people may
Ezek olyan
not notice it
diablósak, nem?
all the time in games, but we wanted to get a really nice, subtle but still fantasy style.
Ilyen
going.
fantasy
Right, and there's a
stílust
lot of
akarnak
different
elérni,
directions
ami
that
nem
UI can
túl
take. I mean, many of us who have played a lot
nem
games
túl
can see the
csiricsáré,
spectrum
de
from
azért
really
jól
bulky,
néz ki.
invasive, heavy kind of
Aha,
elements
ezek ilyen
that you're
sztori
accustomed to from the late
update.
90s to the early 2000s, and where the direction's gone for UI a little bit with more modern games and more
Ezek egy kicsit olyan
minimalistic
GV2-ös,
approach.
nem?
Talk to us a little bit about kind of the differences in those
Jól néz ki
philosophies.
egyébként.
Yeah, totally, and it's
Story
definitely a
update,
flavor approach, right?
exactly.
So people
Ez ilyen
choose between
felpopolós,
one of those
gondolom.
things, and so one of the first things we always do is we gather tons of reference, and so we're all sitting down in a room and we're saying, oh, what do we see as the Ashes of Creation UI? And we
Ugye először mindig ötletelni
start
ülnek le,
thinking from
hogy
these different,
milyennek szeretnénk,
more
hogy legyen az
complex and
egész.
artistic, or more subtle and
Összetettebb, vagy
minimalistic,
inkább
or, a balance of the mix,
művésziesebb, vagy
right.
egyszerűbb.
and
And I remember some of the first conversations that you and I had with the broader team is with those reference boards, kind of dialing in what that visual, looks like for Ashes of Creation. And we saw modern
Ez jól néz
takes
ki.
on it, we saw older takes on it, traditional takes on it,
Hát,
bulkier
azért
takes
nézzen
on
ki
it,
úgy, hogy
and even the
mondjuk az tök
filigree
jó,
down
hogy
to the
ilyen
very
sötét
minute
témával mennek,
details
nem
of
szeretem,
these
amikor
borders and
belevilágít a
these
fejedbe, az kiég a
corners. Like
szemed.
there's just so many examples
Jól
that
néz
live
ki.
there. And you guys did a
Nem
great job
csiricsáré,
kind
de
of
azért így
condensing
jó.
that feedback down into a very cohesive approach for the style. Talk to us about a little bit about like how you
Elegáncsos.
utilize these corners and edges to kind of populate in a more modular fashion the broader design of the UI.
Az egész ilyen moduláris.
Yeah,
lesz.
so a big portion of what we do is kind of creating this like toolkit basically. So rather than having every time you
eszköztárként
go to a
fogják
screen,
fel.
you have something new, it's here are all of these different things that we'll use to build a set of windows that are all going to look like they're built the same way. They're going to
Hát
have a
az összes
similar
ablak úgy
theme
néz
throughout,
ki,
and
mintha
we build
ugyanúgy építették volna,
we build
ugyanazzal
a bunch of
a
these things as like components.
stílussal.
So when we go and like the first screens we built always take the longest because it's
Még az
gonna be,
első verzió
we're
tart a
building all
legtovább.
the little parts that we put in, and then once we do a button, it's like, oh, hey, here's the button, and then we'll keep populating those buttons throughout, and then like we're trying to build as smart as possible because we have a pretty big game ahead of us.
Yes.
And so everything we're doing is built modular so that we can update in one place and it'll go throughout the whole game. So if we decide, hey, we want our buttons to be, 10% brighter, here you go. It's quick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've been kind
as
of
you can
showing some of these along the way. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, as you can see on screen, I mean, there were a ton of different explorations that we went through here that, we started with that really rough just shape exploration and we picked our favorites from it after we kind of had like settled on a more, smaller, narrow
Voltak ilyen
set of
durvább
styles. And then we just
vázlatai.
explored, what does that look like on a screen? What does it look like, with corner elements and line elements and
És kiválasztották
breaks?
a...
And then you can see we start putting them into windows so that we can share and get, feedback.
Kiválasztották azokat, amik
And that this
amikkel utána
process
tovább
takes a while,
dolgoznak.
but it's totally worth it in the end. So we have a really good foundation to keep moving forward from.
I think the next group you had here was the inventory process, and this is kind of showing the process, like the walkthrough of like when you first start designing
Inventory.
stuff into what it looks like once it's in game, correct? And so we'll start with the gray box if you want to talk a little bit about how that works.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is giving people a little bit of
Ez az
insight
alap.
on how we approach different screens. So the whole UI process usually starts with something like this, which is called UX, so user experience focused design. And so what we're doing is these are just a couple of small mocks based, like the document for the
Minden
inventory is
elkopik.
actually probably like 4 or
Mindent
5
javítani kell
pages
majd.
long, and it goes over all the little details of how you interact with things.
And so actually,
As a
that's a
user,
good
I
part
would
of
like to be
the.
able to click an icon and drag it from one box to another. Like it's
Mhm.
a lot of those little things that designers
Right.
Ja,
are
itt
designing.
épülnek fel
And
azok,
that's
hogy
actually
mit tudom,
a
megfogsz
good,
egy tárgyat és hátúzol
point to bring
máshová,
up
meg
as part
hasonló.
of that initial
Ilyen alapok.
ideation or that pipeline flow. You're reviewing these GDDs and understanding kind of what are the system requirements
Ezeknek
that
mind
you, from a
működniük
UX
kell.
perspective, have to incorporate as part of these wireframes or as part of these mocks.
Azt hiszem, igen.
So we
Aztán
work with
meghalnak.
designers constantly here. We're talking with them about how to make their designs more user-friendly and how to, accommodate what we want to make and make it the best version of it. So we work back and
Ez egy
forth.
eldönt,
We'll
meg
create these
kidolgozzák, hogy
gray
mit akarnak
boxes,
csinálni,
which
és
can go over,
annak a
like
legjobb
that,
változatát akarják
Margaret said,
megcsinálni.
literally, like what does it look like when you're dragging an item, and it goes over all these little interactions.
Például, amit
because
mondtad az előbb, hogy hogyan fog kinézni, hogyha
we'll
fogsz egy
build these
tárgyat és
things,
áthúzod
and then we'll
másra.
pass them off to engineers who will hook it all up and make all the functions work. And those guys are, trying to get every little detail working just right so it plays really great. And the next step after the gray
Ez
box
már
is
a...
like approved, we go to an art mock, and so we take that style.
Ráhúznak
and if
egy
there's anything
ilyen
new, we start applying those things and showing
művészi
what
skint.
filters look like and other things in that
Hát ez már nem
nature.
rossz.
And when you're talking about filters, can you
És akkor így
go
kezd
a
kialakulni
little
így a
into more
stílus.
detail regarding what that is?
Hogy az egész
Oh, yeah. So this
technikai
one
alap hogy fog
specifically is just
kinézni,
like
így
the filters on the
látványilag.
backpack. So if we want to be able to search for just equipment, we can click equipment and it'll, we're going to show, hey, like when we do
Ha
that,
lesznek
we're
rajta
going to
szűrők,
fade out
ugye,
the
hogy
icon so
ki
that you
akarod
can see
szűrni
just
csak
the
a
equipment, but we don't
páncélokat,
want
meg
to
fegyvereket,
reorganize
vagy
your
ilyesmi.
whole inventory, 'cause
Ugye ott
you
látszik
know
is,
how
hogy
players
vannak
are
a
with their
quest itemek,
inventory storage.
I'm very
automata
organized. I like
összepakolás,
this.
vagy összerendezés.
I'm OCD about it.
Me too.
Ahol a
I'm as
pénzek.
organized as the button that auto sorts my inventory.
Yeah. Colby and I have like a love for organization. I know whenever we're writing
Yeah.
documents and stuff.
Yeah, and then
oh, sorry. I'll go
this,
through the next
oh no, it's okay. Yeah, and this gets put straight into the game.
Berakják a
kind of like
játékba.
what you've seen with our concepts to 3D, we're kind of a little bit more of a kind of
Nézik, hogy ott milyen.
not siloed, but we have a little small team that builds
Szép
this
volt,
stuff
Dixie.
all together. And we work with the designers, we work with the engineers.
You're a service-oriented team, really. These requests can come in from engineering, from design, from art or whatever.
És ugye
and
különböző
your guys'
kérések
job is
jöhetnek be
kind of
más
like understand
csapatoktól.
where the request needs to service and deliver kind of that those elements to those
És
teams.
ugye nekik is dolgoznak különböző elemeken.
Tehát
ilyen támogatói csapat igazából. Ugye a dolgok ugye játszhatóak, meg használhatóak legyenek, és ugye a visszajelzések alapján módosítgatnak.
If something we play it and we're like, oh, that's not quite right, we can go and tune that and move it back and get it working just right. And so that's showing here the concept coming right into the game, and we have a whole toolkit that lets us build these windows a lot faster now that we've assembled that.
Yeah.
And a lot of players. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and obviously we're just showing the inventory, but we do this with like every piece of UI that we're going forward with, and there's a lot of back and forth. And obviously when we're creating these things, we're also keeping in mind a lot of the customization that you guys want as well.
Ugye figyelembe veszik azt is, hogy majd mindenki testre akarja szabni az egészet, hogy hogyan fog kinézni. Tehát lehet színeket váltani.
Specific elements
Például.
and things of that sort. Especially for colorblind folks, we know that's
Vagy
something
a színtévesztőknek is lesznek megoldások.
That was what I was going to comment on was, Colby, share with our audience, I think, kind of your philosophy when it comes to customizing and options.
Mi a filozófiája a testre szabhatósággal
you have
kapcsolatban?
your own desires when you play these games. Tell us how we're going to be doing things differently in Ashes.
Yeah, we're going to have basically everything in the game will be customizable as much as
Mindent
we can
testre lehet
support.
majd szabni.
So all of our
Legalább
windows
annyira,
will be
mennyire csak lehetséges.
scalable, all of our
Méretezés.
UI, we have a bunch of scaling options already exposed at this
Sok
point in the
méretezési
game.
lehetőség lesz például.
And moving forward, we've already been working on a HUD editor. You'll be able to uniquely scale all
Lesz
of
egy
your different
szerkesztő
HUD
felülete.
elements and change,
Mit látsz meg, mit nem
potentially choose
látsz.
from different styles of those elements.
Különböző stílusok is
But it's
lehetnek.
going to be as much customization as we can fit in there, which
Tehát beleadnak mindenféle testre szabhatósági lehetőséget, amit csak
A lot
tudnak.
of streamers have specific UI colors, or they want like their camera to be in a certain spot. So
Például a streamereknek is, hogy mondjuk illik a stream overlaykhöz, meg és oda néz.
Differently. Like I like my stuff kind of like in a specific space, and I know that other people do not. And some people who just have it all there, I'm like, it's so much.
Well, and it's not even that each player plays differently. It's almost even role dependent. Like when I'm playing a
cleric, attól is függhet a dolog, hogy milyen klasszal játszik az ember, hogy hol vannak az új elemek.
Is very different than if I'm playing a DPS, right? Like I want that front
De
and
máshol
center.
vannak a nevek, amikor healerre játszik, meg máshol, amikor DPS. Neki legalábbis.
But I don't necessarily want that when I'm playing a different role. And so I think, having that, as you mentioned, the customization options to kind of resize, but not just resize, place in different locations and associate different connections and having them hook into the side. And, there's just a lot of like, ideas that we've discussed a lot with the UI team as a whole. Of like, where's been
Figyelj,
our
X-Mix,
greatest
az
pain
új,
point
az
as
fontos
players,
része a
and how can we
játéknak,
address
azt
those in the
neked is be kell
designs that we're
látnod.
going to be emphasizing with our
Szerintem.
UI.
Yeah, I see that
Meg 6 ember vagy 7 ember dolgozik ezen, a többi nem ezen dolgozik, szóval.
When we're talking about web, when we're talking about design of
No,
any
Colby's
sort.
favorite thing is to see a designer in their GDD try to mock up the UX and UI.
I live for those. Yeah.
I'm always ashamed when I'm making graphic stuff because Colby and Mike are just amazing. And I'm like, oh, look at my stuff.
We have a full team of people. They're great at that. They do amazing work. So
but obviously the desire there for a designer incorporating that as part of their GDD is they're trying to communicate to Colby and the team like what are they trying to get out of a particular system with UI, right? And that's always a great informational piece, but it's you get a kick out of it sometimes.
Yeah, well, and it's one of the strengths of our team too is people just know games, right? We have a bunch of not just developers,
ismerik a játékokat, szóval nem csak fejlesztők, hanem játékosok is. Szóval össze tudják hasonlítani más játékokkal, hogy ott így működött, meg úgy, ott meg amúgy.
And I know that people are going to ask this specifically because of what you brought up, Stephen, in regards to, different roles, you want different types of UI layouts. Will people be able to save a layout?
El lehet majd menteni a különböző beállításokat.
Oh, we've discussed that in the past. That's absolutely a desire. Is that as you sorry,
Ez a cél.
Oh, it's okay. No, we like one of the first things we did when we were starting to kind of block in the very base features of our HUD editor was talking about saving and loading profiles. We're going to have options for like, hey, when I'm in a raid,
hogyha például raiden vagyok, akkor automatikusan váltson át valamire. Csapatban vagyok, akkor váltson át másra.
And we want to have really our kind of mantra is really solid defaults, so most people
tehát ilyen erős alapot akarnak, hogy alapvetően nem is biztos, hogy változtatni kell valamit, de hogyha akarsz, akkor rengeteg lehetőség lesz.
Points of maybe contention or subjective kind of differences that we as players talk about. oftentimes it
Believe
lives
there
in the
are.
I know, absolutely there are, but it lives in the realm between, well, what's default, and then how are we giving the players the option to change that, right? And
Yep.
that I think is really the key in providing
Az a
those things. And as Colby said, like, our objective, of
kérdés, hogy
course, on the default
mi az
side is
alap
to
és
make it
milyen
most
eszközöket
applicable to a
adnak
broad
a
audience, but give the
megváltoztatására.
flexibility that you can do whatever you want based on the
Tehát
many years you've been
rugalmasak,
playing games, and
rugalmasnak kell lenni.
develop your own idiosyncrasies or habits that you prefer.
Yeah,
Ugye
like, I'm a
sokan,
weird player
sokan
who
már
plays
sok
with, like, I know a
játékon
lot of
játszottak,
people
és
do
vannak
UIs, but I'm
szokásaik, meg
like
megszokott dolgai,
RDFG, because I like having
és lehet,
more
hogy ott is,
keys around my
vagy itt is be
hands
akarja
to
majd
be able to
állítani
hit
azt,
buttons
amit
versus
szeret.
like not. So I know some people are like, that's so weird. I don't know how you could do that. But it's just like when you train yourself for, 20 years, you get used to it. But it's not for
Hey,
everybody.
I'm super weird as well. I really only on my left hand use the hotkeys between tilde and 5, and then I use a function to do the later hotkeys in the hotbar for me.
I do
So
too.
I'll
I use like control
Alt-
1, control
Yes,
Alt 1.
exactly.
Yeah. I want everything to be easy to access.
know.
I don't want to have to
Yeah.
stretch my hand across the keyboard.
There's no
Yes.
button past 6.
Remélem,
and
hogy
there's some
át lehet
people who
pakolni a
just like
VSD-ről
clicking
is.
stuff, which I know like some people hate that, but it is very interesting to see how different people play.
Yeah.
And there's a right way and a wrong way. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
messing. But we do have some more stuff to go through, so I want to kind of get through that. And you had a lot of iconography stuff, so I don't know if you want to preempt this before we
ikonok.
head into talking a little bit about that.
Ikonográfia.
Yeah, I mean, we can just look through these slides. We've done a ton of iconography
Oh.
work, and kind of similarly
ezek ilyen
to what we're going
klasszos
to be doing
ikonok.
for like a
Wow.
style guide for the UI, we're going to be building out style guides, small ones
micsoda
for
izé.
each of the types of icons. So these are showing like, some ideation on the class iconography, or the icons that go at the edge of the different
I think those are
window
archetypes,
treatments.
but yeah,
Oh, yes, sorry, archetypes.
It's
Yes.
there are classes too.
Yes. But yeah,
but
we
also
started
that's a good
doing-
point, actually, in bringing up the differences between the archetype and the class, and how perhaps an icon can be promoted from its archetype state up to the class state and still salvage that iconography from the base archetype.
True, so you kind of know what your primary archetype is based
Érdekesek.
on like your class
Right.
icon.
Yeah.
A
Which
Bártosnál
is
ez
that
a
whole idea of,
trombitáló csonti.
lockdown. So
lol.
when you can see someone, you can tell what they are and, what I'm dealing
Right.
with here. So
Yeah,
That's
and that's the
definitely one of
primary
our-
purpose, right, of these types of UI elements.
Ez
is,
fontos tricks még.
communicating that information. I mean, UI's whole purpose is communicating the information to the player, but at a glance.
Ugye
with these
információt is
particular
közvetít az
icons,
új,
right?
és
That's the whole, I'm
ezekre
getting an
az
understanding
ikonokkal
and
egy
I'm
első
familiar
pillantásra
with
lehet
that
látni
sword
dolgokat. Nem?
because it's the tank or something.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's a fine line for UI of like making something very, very like aesthetically pleasing, but also making sure it, satisfies that like base information it needs to tell me. So here you can see some of our ideation between the ability effects and how we go from, quick, sketches and moving them forward into ability icons. And we're going to have different like styles for different size of things too. So, ability icons are all going to fall into one style. And then like, if we do a class emblem, it'll be more detailed. If we do something really tiny, it's got to be really simple, as you can see with like these ones on the right here.
Yeah,
They're just going to be.
some of them are map oriented, so you have to be able to see them and understand what they are when they're like one by one pixel.
Yeah, some of the graphic ones are the hardest ones to do because they're just, you have to tell me what that is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of great work on these. Natalie and Jeff have done a ton of awesome explorations on these. Natalie's been doing all the painting for the
azokat a CD
class abilities you
jelzés,
guys have seen in the
gondolom
last
én.
live streams, and they've just been fantastic.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
Az egy nekrós,
I
izé.
love the vivid
Durva.
nature of these icons, especially for the ability
koponyás.
icons. The strong contrast
Ez
that
az
exists
oroszlánok.
within the icon
Úristen.
itself that lends to that easy communication of the ability recognition is super important.
Yeah, we're hoping to have a really awesome set of icons.
Hát ezek jól
for you
néznek ki.
guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're going to move into some like actual mocks that are in game, right?
Na most ilyen játékbeli
Not
részleteket.
quite in game. Well, some of them may be in
Hát
game, but
nem
yes,
nem
these
mindegyik
are
van
just gonna be
játékban,
the,
de
art mocks
ilyen
for
példa
what we've
izék.
built so far. There's some extra ones that are in the works and things that are partial. But
Példamókusok.
these ones are, yeah.
So Emily,
Looking nice.
take a look at these. We're gonna be
Mix,
talking a
mix.
little bit about kind of
Most fogják
These are
mutogatni.
going to be inspected like
Azt mondja,
I
hogy
know they're gonna zoom in on every little thing. So this
And now
first one
I
is-
would like to preface though,
Ha.
for those of you who
Ilyes
are
amikor-
going to zoom in on every little detail, that
Mindenre be
as
lehet majd
always,
zoomolni.
this is a work in progress and
Meg
things
ugye
are
ez
subject
megint
to
elmondja, hogy ez
change.
változni fog.
Some things are even placeholder in these.
Placeholderek is vannak.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Tehát nem ez a végleges.
Yeah, not everything is
Csak az
built
irány
100%
nagyjából.
accurate to every single system. These are just mocks to get everything.
Ez csak ilyen
Especially as people
példák,
play
ilyen vázatok.
more of the game, we'll be
Oh, yeah.
adjusting
yeah.
things and changing things.
Vagy
and seeing what
próba
works and what doesn't.
cuccok.
So, when Alpha 2 comes around, that's when the feedback is going to be very, very important. So,
Alpha 2-ben majd várják a visszajelzéseket, mert
No, and
fontos
so this
lesz.
is kind of we wanted to include this, which is showing like all of the different buttons and accordions and filter buttons and drop downs that we use to build all these different screens. So, combined with the style guide that we had before, we're going to use these and we build
Hát
out
akkor
all
semmit
of
nem
our
mutogatnának
you know why they're called accordions?
megjelenésig
Because it,
te.
opens up. These are things that like, open up and kind of
Yep.
expand. So you can see like more of your quests or more of whatever it is.
And whenever
Ki lehet
you
bontani
interface with
dolgokat,
this
hogy többet
particular
lássál, mit
UI
tudom,
element,
a
it
questből, vagy
actually plays the audio
akármiből.
cue of an accordion in the background.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's just
fun.
polka the whole time.
Don't give Kat
Látszik,
a
hogy
heart attack. She's like,
lehet
what are you
nyitni.
getting me into?
Vissza lehet csukni
Also, like
rövidebbre.
our audio is amazing too, and not only does UI interact with design and engineering, but they're also working with audio and visual effects. Like there's a lot of
Ugye
coordination that has to
lesznek
happen.
hang meg látványelemek is
Next
hozzá.
one
User.
here is dialogue, and I think there's a
Ez egy
couple
beszélgetés egy
dialogue ones, right?
NPC-vel.
Yeah, we show a couple different
Például?
steps. So this will be like when you're talking to an NPC, you're going through your potential options of what you can talk about. You could ask additional questions, or you could jump straight into a quest.
Lehet kérdezgetni, lehet vele
happens to
beszélgetni,
be.
vagy egyszerre rámenni
So,
a questre, az a felső,
Some of
gondolom
our
én.
base treatments here, and then this is the quest delivery. So if you're, talking to that NPC,
Ezek,
and
amikor
they have
leadod
something
a... Oh,
for you to start, a task, we'll present this as
quest felvétel.
make your choice. Do you want to start this task right now, and give you the details that we have, and some
Vannak
objectives
ilyen
may be hidden,
opcionális
depending on the quest. So,
feladatok is.
Mhm. Alright, and
Meg a
then
szükséges feladatok ahhoz, hogy elvégezd a
I was just
questet.
gonna say,
Ez
it's
ugye a hátizsák,
a lot of
inventory.
I've seen a lot of interesting iterations for how quest gets delivered.
Jól néz ki a játék háttér előtt szerintem.
I move
Nem
into
rossz.
this kind of alternate camera mode, and
Úgy
I have the
illik az
NPC kind of
egészhez.
talking to me with I have the bar underneath it. But I think that when you're servicing multiple dialogue trees that have many different options, this approach is really conducive to kind of keeping those options front and center to the player, letting them see that, and navigating through the dialogue tree with a very
Ugye segít,
easy to
tehát
interact with.
segít navigálni a
quest
különböző
window.
párbeszéd
And we
fákon,
did
hogy
that other way that you've mentioned,
látszik, hogy ott van még opció, vagy
Yes,
nincs.
in Alpha 1.
További.
One of our early iterations for UI as a placeholder was really that long bar at the bottom screen kind of approach. I'm really liking this. It'd be great to get feedback as you guys are kind of watching this. As always, it's very important for you guys to give feedback on what you're seeing. It's I know we'll talk about that at the end, but yeah, I do love these. These look great.
And
Yeah.
going into the backpack, which people got a little glimpse of some of this when we were showing our live stream last.
Ja, ezt lehetett látni a tankos
Yeah,
videóban.
everything's coming online, becoming a little bit more
Nagyjából.
usable and functional, and our main goal as UI is to get things in game and usable so that we can really test it, because
Ja, hogy az első,
ultimately
a céljuk,
you
hogy
can
mindent
design anything on
berakjanak a
paper, but really you've got to get your
játékba, és
hands on
akkor
it in
tudják
order to
tesztelni,
absolutely
meg
use it.
megnézni, hogy milyen
I think we
élesben.
saw a lot of commentary in regards to segmenting the backpack into different.
Ugye el lehet választani az inventory például
harvesting
ugye
tools and things like
különböző
that.
típusú
Valuables, I should say,
tárgyakra,
quest items. People really
páncélfegyver,
love seeing
stb.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Especially with the way our game's going to work, with the materials being a little bit, of a
Anyagokra.
different interaction.
Treated
So
differently, yeah.
and then the quest items
Egy
is
teljesen
that
külön
quality of
fül
life,
foglalkozik
because
az
as
alapanyagokkal, úgy
MMO
látom.
players, we all know
Az inventory
searching for
anyagok
the,
és a quest
one
item.
vial well, that's not the vials of your potions, but it's the quest item.
Absolutely. And it's always great to have in the quest tracker that actually is living on the HUD with you, that accessibility for the item, so you don't have to go digging for an activatable per se.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I hate
We'll
that.
be doing that too,
does
supporting.
that, like has that support right there for you. That's nice.
Yeah.
Or something
Szia,
that you drag
Samuka.
on to your bar easily, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we've got blacksmithing. I know that
Yeah.
people are going to be very excited.
Kraftolós.
To see
Oh my god, this is the
Kraftolós
first look I think
ablak.
we've shown of the
Ő az anyja.
crafting systems.
this. And this is kind of
Yeah.
our fast crafting, so not necessarily
Tüskés
what
vasbuzogány.
we will be end goal, right, Stephen?
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, talk to us a little bit, Colby, about kind of designing for the kind of crafting needs.
Yeah, we work with designers a lot on these, so we've been talking with them about everything they want to get done. So this one is showing kind of the base needs that we were establishing
Ezeken szerepelnek azok az alapdolgok, amiknek szerepelniük kell egy kraftos ablakon,
Right now our crafting does work
és akkor majd ebből
in-game,
indulnak ki.
and it's all functional, and we're building out the functionality as we go to
A kezelhetőségét építik
based on what
fel.
we test. So
And there's a lot
Tesztek
of
alapján.
information you have to communicate via this window.
Ja, hát ugye egy kraftos ablakban sok információt kell közölni.
The idea of multiple subpages that are required to kind of facilitate all the information versus how much you can show on one particular page. Like, talk to us a little bit about that process.
Ugye meg kell vizsgálni, hogy hogyan tudnak, hogyan tudják lehető legtöbb információt közölni egy lapon, de nem milyen túl zsúfoltnak csinálni.
So a lot of our panels you'll see they'll have that left side accordion list, which is like a real, if we have a lot of dense information, we like to use these accordions because you can, have a shorter
Ja,
list and then
bal oldali
expand out the
listából le
parts
lehet
that you're
nyitni a dolgokat,
interested
amik
in.
érdekelnek.
And then we kind of do that same thing where it's context. So you start on the left and you'll move to the right. So you make a selection.
Balról jobbra haladunk, kiválasztod, hogy mit akarsz, és akkor utána lehet tovább jobb oldalon nézni.
Visual hierarchy to help you know, like, okay, I've clicked this, and now I move over here, and I've got buttons over here that are, the only other bright objects on the window, so it pulls me to say, like, okay, I can look and see if I can craft this.
Így egyértelműen lehet látni, hogy mondjuk kiválasztod ezt, akkor abból mi lesz.
Some pretty robust systems, so
Ugye elég erőteljes rendszereknek a kezelőfelületét kell megcsinálni.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a very important component of the testability. And the primary purpose of Alpha 2, as we've always stated, is going to be to get player feedback, to get player hands-on.
Ugye az Alpha 2-ben majd várják a visszajelzést. Jó, ez meg a quest napló. Ez is hasonlóképpen működik, ugye bal oldalon kiválasztod, hogy melyik érdekel, és jobb oldalon látod.
Yeah, definitely.
And folks did see the journal a bit last time. I saw a lot of
Ez már tetszett múltkor is a tankos videóban.
Yeah, a lot of great feedback, positive feedback about the journal, both from color composition to layout design.
Sok pozitív visszajelzést kaptak a quest naplóról a színekkel kapcsolatban is, meg a felépítésével kapcsolatban is. Ja, egyébként teljesen tök jó, kezelhetőnek tűnik.
Yeah, we actually used the journal as one of our test cases for the style guide, because it's a very complex screen. There's a lot of
ezt használták az egyik teszt esetnek, amikor megcsinálták a stílusát az egésznek. Ugye látványvilágát. Ez teljesen tök jól néz ki szerintem. Kicsit van egy kis csavar abban, hogy milyen rendszerben mutatják meg a questeket, a különféle típusú questek is vannak. Ugye a játéknak a történetmesélési rendszer is egy kicsit bonyolultabb lesz, mint általában. És ugye ezeket így valós időben fogja mutatni, hogy pontosan hol tartasz a sztoriban, és mindent jól kell mutatnia nyilván. Ugye eléggé komplikált egy ablak lesz.
That's just going to spark more questions about, like, what do you mean?
Tetszik. Ez már tetszett a tankos videóban is szó.
Perhaps that's going to be a future thing. We definitely need to have some more of our narrative folks on sometime and talk a little bit about that.
I think
be fun.
Carphin might be a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, that's
Carphin,
true. And
oké.
if you did watch our extra live stream, you got a little
Carphinban
teaser,
majd
some lore
beszélnek a
there.
történet
And
készítésről is
then
lehet.
next up, and we're also later in this live stream, we're going to be showcasing
Little
some teasers as well.
Ja,
The
lesz
next
teaser. Megint
live
említő, hogy lesz
stream.
teaser a
And then
stream
we've
végén.
got options, which, for
Opciók.
most of us,
Amit
some of the
beállítási
first things that we
lehetőségek.
experience in game, we're like, let me adjust all the things to be the way that I like them.
Ja,
Like, I
szokásos
want the
grafika,
FOV to be
meg
where I
stb.
want,
stb.
I want the audio to be where I want. And this requires even more elements for you guys.
Keyban
to
X-nál
interact
legyen
with and
nyílazás
adjust. I'm sure that
a
this is
VSD helyett,
probably
mert honyattesek, ha nem
more
lesz.
complicated to put together.
Yeah, well, and this is where that like having a really strong visual language and kind of making
De
that
ugye ennek is a
information
stílusa
really
az illik a
accessible
többihez.
and organized in a good way.
Bal oldalon a
was really
leválasztós
just
menü,
very
jobb oldalon meg
important to
látod,
us.
hogy mit
So
választották ki.
one of the other screens that we hit first, not exactly the thing everybody's like, ooh, let me see the options.
Ugye
but
nyilván ez az
very
egyik
important
ablak,
when you,
ami
do get them out there in your hands.
az
So.
egyik első ablak, amit megnyitsz a játékban. Beállítsd a dolgokat magadnak.
One slider. And they were like, we were constantly getting folks asking for more options.
There'll be a
"It's
few
coming,
more
homies."
sliders.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. You don't. I don't find myself as a
Ezt ne
player
csúszkák
interfacing
még
with
több.
the options menu in many games very often. I do, like you said, kind of at the start of my gaming experience.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the middle of a game and there's some option that I've newly discovered that is like, oh god, I need to change this and I need to change it fast, and I open that options menu and it is just an absolute cluster. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I need to now spend so much time here. So easy intuitive navigation is definitely an
Egyszerű
important
navigációt
aspect of this,
akarnak, mert ez
of the options
fontos.
menu for sure.
Yeah,
Opciók
definitely. We'll
menüben
be testing that
is.
a lot.
Ez
Yes.
sokat fogják tesztelni.
And definitely toss us your thoughts on that or what options you like. Obviously, this doesn't have everything in there.
Nyilván
but
ezen
it's
nincsen
a
rajta
glimpse
minden.
into the future.
Karakter
And
képernyő.
character screen, which
Oh, yeah.
we have shown various different versions of this throughout
Ennek már több verzió is volt.
lifespan of Ashes of
I
Creation.
know we
It's gone
have.
through many iterations, and I know there's
That
been a
is funny.
couple that people haven't liked, a few that people have liked. I know that there's always a lot that you have to
Right.
display here, and so I don't know if you
Ott
want
a
to
Yeah.
klassz,
talk
a
a little bit
szint,
about that, Colby.
a neve.
Yeah, we were building this out and we wanted to kind of create
Statok.
something that would handle a couple of different roles with obviously your equipment slots.
Ugye ennek
for
olyannak kell lennie,
what we
hogy a
call paper
különböző
doll, which is that
klasszokat is
display
tudja
of your
kezelni.
character. Eventually it won't just be a image of your character. We hope to have the 3D character.
Ja,
and
hogy
be able
nem
to
csak egy képet
rotate
akarnak, hanem
around with what you're
3D-s
wearing.
modellt karakterről.
And then we wanted to support a couple of different features here with some base stats, the
Az
equipment,
alap
which will show,
statok,
what equipment you
felszerelés.
have available to quick swap, so you don't have to have your inventory and the screen open. Detailed stats for those people who want to get into all of the details.
Részletesebb
Oh, yeah.
statok.
And then, of course, gear sets. So this is going to be
Meg
able
ugye a
to,
szettek,
swap your sets of gear
hogy
quickly.
könnyen
and
lehessen
being able to
cserélni a
save different
felszereléseket
loadouts.
a
And,
karakteren.
we know all the players who have 2 sets, and then there's players who have hundreds of sets. So
Yeah.
Like,
Ja,
I
vannak
have
játékosoknak van 2 szettjük, meg van akinek van 100. Nekem csak egy szokott lenni. Na jó, nem a Final Fantasy-ben nem.
This has been a lot of the stuff that we've worked on over the past, year. We've built out the style guide while supporting all these
Nagyjából
live
ezen dolgoztak
streams,
az
and it's
elmúlt
just been,
évben.
awesome to see this
Stílusot
team get up and
stílust
running in such
felépítették,
a short time and get a
és
ton of work
tesztelték
in.
a
Yeah, and you
különböző
have
ablakokat.
definitely been supporting a lot of teams. I know a lot of the
Meg
things that we're
támogatták a többi
showcasing
csapatot
each month.
azokban,
You
amikre
guys have
szükségük volt.
some semblance of little bits and pieces that you're kind of showcasing in there. So, like Steven said, this is the first time we're like just focusing on UI, which I think is kind of
Yeah.
exciting.
And
Yeah,
Colby,
it's fun.
talk to us a little bit about kind of the types of feedback you like to see from a
Milyen
demonstration
visszajelzést
like this
szeretne hallani?
of the UI.
Yeah, I mean, just general people's feeling of these things. The best feedback
Hogyan
will of
tetszik a
course be
dolog,
when
az
you guys are
egész?
able to get your hands on it. But if you guys
Például?
have real strong opinions on, hey, I want to see
Így
these kind of things
látszatra mi
in
a
my
vélemény róla?
journal, and
Or
we've
features
got
from UI.
Mit szeretnénk látni,
yeah, we
ami
have
nincs
a
ott?
lot of features planned, and we have a lot of good
Ugye nyilván van egy csomó
options
tervezett
available, and there's
dolog.
going to be things that you haven't seen. Like maybe your journal ties into an archive that has a little bit more of that lore background in it, and it keeps track of what maybe stories you've participated in. So we've really, we're building
Always
this out.
leaking.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, we're just building this out, part by part, and we're going to be supporting the team. So if you guys see stuff that you really like, make sure to throw a thumbs up out there, make a post or comments, because we do read.
Ha valami
all of
nagyon
this
tetszik,
stuff,
akkor
and
azt
we
is
try
mondjuk
to
meg.
make sure that we're seeing the
Ha valami
feedback before
hiányzik szerintünk,
giving.
akkor azt is,
Absolutely.
We'll
I mean,
be.
azt is
especially-
várják.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
We'll be putting up a thread. It'll probably be up
Ezt majd
right
egy
now, right meow.
fórum
We're on our
topic,
forums.ashesofcreation.com.
ahova be
Check
lehet
it out over
írkálni.
there. Definitely leave us some thoughts on our UI. We'll have a few questions that are good, like starters for you. But definitely tell us what you'd like to see, some features that you'd like to see, what features you liked from the displays that we showed today. And we will be creating a report for the UI team and providing that. Roshan and Wagner are always so great about putting those together, and they're super in depth. They read through everything, which makes it very easy for the design team and development team to be able to quickly read through those and get a good overview of kind of your guys' thoughts and feelings and suggestions. You guys always have some great
Yes.
ideas as well.
And always make sure to incorporate as part of your feedback, the examples and inspiration for you that you've experienced that did things well from a UI. What stands out about a game that you think had great UI? What was it
Ja, meg,
about
hogy
that game that you
milyen,
felt was great?
mi volt az
with
egy
regards
játékban,
to
ami
their
nagyon
UI?
tetszett
And what
az
were some
új terén,
examples of
tehát mi
games
volt
that
az,
had bad
ami
UI,
nagyon
and why
megragadt
did you feel that it had bad UI?
bennünk,
Those
vagy
are
jó, akár
great,
jó,
like,
akár rossz,
cornerstone touch points on how to get
különböző
good
más
feedback
játékokban.
is always using those references, right? Because it's there that we can find better detail-oriented kind of inspection. So yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah.
give us your feedback.
And with that, I do want to give you a chance, Colby, to kind of do a little plug. I know you have one, of course, and then anything else you want to say at the end of here before we head on over to our character art segment.
So, well, our UI team has grown quickly over the past year, but we are looking for one more UI artist or
Még
UX
egy
designer.
ember
We're
hiányzik a
looking for
csapatból.
someone to help join the team and kind of build this out with us. So if you guys are,
Hogyha
if you have some experience,
ilyesmivel
please
foglalkoztak, akkor
send us
jelentkezzetek.
your resume and
Absolutely.
apply.
Get out there and help us raise awareness.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I just want to give thanks to our team, because our team is
Megköszönni a
awesome. We
csapattának.
work really hard, and we have a really nice, diverse set of people who are able to accomplish all of these different tasks while we're able to, help this game come to life. So we're just very fortunate. We got a great team over here.
All right. Well, definitely head on over intrepidstudios.com/careers if you are interested, or if you know somebody forward along that position. We'd love to fill it with someone who's amazing to join our Intrepid family. And with that, we're going to say thank you, Colby. We're going to head on over to our next segment, which is our character art update. So we will see you momentarily.
Bye, Colby.
Yeah, we
Thank
can
you.
See you guys.
Ilyen Colby.
Welcome back. We hope that you
Well,
all
that
have
was
Ott alszik a cica az
that
ágyon.
was an in-depth exploration of the UI process.
very much so, and it seemed like you all really, really enjoyed that. We hope that you did. It seems like y'all did. And obviously, like Steve
Ahogy hallom, jók a
mentioned there, a
kommentek
lot of
a
it's
chaten.
work in progress. It's not final.
Mondjuk tényleg jól néz ki,
We will have
szerintem
a
nekem
lot of
tetszik az új.
customization, a lot of
Nem
options.
zavaró, meg olyan
we noted in
elegáns.
I can't wait to go
Nyílik
on
a
the Reddit
játékban.
later and just see all the speculation and hypotheses and theory
Már alig vágyja, hogy
crafting
láss a
about
különböző
these windows.
találgatásokat, meg
And of
egyébeket majd
course,
később.
you guys will be able to see some more of them. We usually share a lot of the pieces throughout the month, so definitely keep an eye on our social for those things. But I did want to cover a couple different questions that Wagner and Roshan tossed my way. These were kind of side things, which is people are wondering if they'll be able to share UI layouts. So let's say
Meg lehet osztani majd az új beállításokat.
have options to share, or is that something we could explore in the future?
That can be a little bit difficult.
Ez egy kicsit nehéz lenne.
Talked about it in the past, but there are
Beszéltek
unique
róla.
elements that
De
would
vannak
be
egyedi
exposed
elemek,
for certain classes and or characters that
ami
might
különböző
not be for
karakterekre
others.
vagy klasszokra illenek, ami nem jó másoknak.
Might be difficult to have transferable or shareable, but it's something that we're not shying away from looking into. So
De nem biztos, hogy nem lesz, majd meglátják.
And I know we did say that UI will be customizable. You'll be able to move stuff around, scale things the way you'd like.
Yep.
In most games, you always are able to add extra action bars or ability bars, and
Ugye legtöbb játékban lehet hozzáadni extra skill bárokat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ugye
There's
ezek
no
lesznek.
shortage of customization that we want to provide each player, because some people like to have a very minimalistic number of hotbars. They don't need necessarily to have, 3, 4, 5 hotbars that are available. But some people do like that. They want to have all their items listed on their hotbar, as well as their abilities, as well as their mounts, as well as anything that they can essentially interact with as an icon. They want to place it somewhere on a hotbar that's visible.
Yeah.
So the breadth of customization should encompass those desires from the more minimal to the heavier player type.
And when we're in our betas,
Mindenféle
and we
beállítás
have a
lesz
lot
majd,
more
akkor is,
depth
hogyha
accessible
kevés
to you all, if
skillbát
you have
szeretünk,
any
akkor is
feedback
hogyha
along
sokat.
the way, we're all ears. You've seen our journey along the way. We're constantly taking y'all's feedback, and maybe we won't be able to implement stuff immediately, but we'll definitely be taking your feedback and communicating with you all along the way. And then the last one here was, will there be weight capacity? There's been a lot of questions in regards to that. That's not really.
No, there's
Lesz a
not.
súly
Yeah, there's not weight capacity. Weight
az
management,
inventornál.
in my opinion, and this is of course subjective, but weight management is not a compelling mechanic.
Nem szereti azt,
for
hogyha egy
players to
játékban a
have to
súly,
deal
a
with in
dolgok
a
súlyával is
setting.
törődni
It
kell.
can be for sure in a survival game type mode, or
Egy ilyen túlélő
in other types of
játékban
games.
van értelme, de
But really we want to focus on spacing, and we want to focus on stack size.
inkább
those
a
kind of
stackeknek a
supplement where
méretével
weight would be
foglalkoznak, majd nem
relevant.
azon, hogy milyen
This is more
nehéz
about
valami.
like, how much capacity do I have? What are the shapes and sizes of the different types of materials and or gatherables that I
Hogy
might
mekkora a méretük a dolgoknak.
acquire, and how does that fit into
Tehát
my
nem a súlyra mennek rá.
gatherable bags, and what are my stack limits, and how can those stack limits be kind of augmented or changed based on the bag type or quality that I purchased.
Hogy változik a stack méret a különböző
or my expertise
zsákok,
with a particular
táskák vagy
profession when I'm
zsákok
gathering resources out in the
miatt.
wild. That's where we want to kind of make those choices be more relevant and compelling.
All right, and with that, I think we're ready to move on to our character art update.
No, karakter art
So
update.
we'll be doing that.
Annyit szeretnék, amennyi képesség van.
Let's show all the things. There's so many
Na,
cool
miket
things.
mutatnak?
And like I said, stay till the end. We've got.
Na, még megint mondja, hogy lesz valami teaser. Most már nagyon teaserik ezt a teasert.
Stay for that.
Kíváncsi leszek.
So with that, we will first kick things
Ó,
off
ja,
with
ez
we've
a
got-
Küklosz
you guys
bossnak a
did see some
fegyvere.
Cyclops weapons before, but now there's even more Cyclops
Küklosz
weapons,
bossnak a
which these are
fegyverei.
looking very, very awesome.
Jól néz ki.
I'm
Mik azok
sad
rajtad,
actually, 'cause I don't have
gombákok?
my,
Lol.
I don't
Oh,
have a
extra
view screen that I
monitors, so
can
you
see.
can't see.
I know, I can't see. What are we
In
looking
the run of
at?
show, I usually always have all of the
Wow.
images for
I,
him, so
I
he
know,
can
but
see
I don't
them.
have. Yeah, I don't have it.
But these are the Cyclops weapons. There's mace, bow.
X-Fix, maradj csendbe.
Um,
Ez mi? Ez nem tudom mi.
Okay, I'm looking.
Fogalmam
on the
sincs,
phone.
hogy
I
ez micsoda.
apologize, to the audience if I'm looking on the phone. Yeah, you
Ez
know,
biztos valamilyen
to give you
stuff.
guys an idea, the Cyclops, which you'll be seeing
Jó
at
néz
some
ki.
point here in the very near
Mhm.
future, is and you guys have seen the model for it
Ez valami
already in the past, right?
kartféleség.
some parts of it.
is
Yeah.
some parts of it. It is a very large, like 45 or 50 foot. I think it's like over 50
He's
feet.
carrying a tree in one.
Nagyon
hand,
magas
I
ez
believe.
a boss,
it's
ugye
like
már.
a 50 foot tall giant.
És még rondák is,
great
de is
boss,
ronda.
and, he
Az a
has
stuff,
a
az
lot of
kifejezetten jól néz ki
natural
szerintem. Jó, ez mondjuk ez fura, ez nem tudom mi.
weapons, that are available that he uses, and I think
De
they
ez nem
just
rossz
did a great
például.
job with these. They really kind of, I think, reflect the nature of that.
Mindegyiknek van valami
creature,
gomba az oldalán.
which is always cool. to
Ez
have
fogalmam
because
sincs, hogy micsoda,
it
de
ties you into that story, it ties you when
Well,
you
it's gotta
acquire this
drop.
thing.
az nem bogyó, az gomba. Piros
Ah,
kalapos,
yeah.
fehér
Some cool
pettyes
Cyclops
gomba.
loot.
Ez néz ki a
And
legjobban.
Also, we're going to talk a little bit more about Carphin here because we're going to show some cool Carphin weapons. But look at
Oh.
the weapons; they're so sick. And I
Oh,
heard
it's
that
me.
y'all got your bingo card. The community puts together like a
Oh,
little
wow.
bingo
Emlékeztek
card of
arra,
things that they think we're
arra az
gonna
ásványra,
talk
ami
about
volt
live.
a
And I
múltkori
always love
pókos
seeing
skin csomagban? Na, ez is annak néz ki.
Got a bingo, yeah. When you said
That
Carphin,
is
Ezek a lebegők, nem is tudom, milyen kristály volt a neve.
they got their bingo, which is cute. But yeah, these are looking awesome, and these are achievable.
Tényleg, az volt, igazad van szóló. Igaz.
Very.
Again, I
Ez tök úgy néz ki, mint az a kristály, ami volt például a pók peten, meg a pók mounton.
I'm not distracted.
Nem tudom, mi volt a neve.
He's not looking at his phone for other reasons. He's watching the thing. And then we've got some NPCs that have been
NPC.
created. So this first one is
Ooh.
an ambitious academic. There's a couple
Valami
different
tudós.
versions with the petticoat vibes.
Ezek se
Yeah,
szép.
these are pretty cool.
Az a köpenye tök jó.
And,
Ez valami tudós
I don't know
NPC?
if we want to tease a little bit about the academic aspect of it, for Carphin, but
Mármint
yeah,
élő vagy
absolutely.
halott, vagy
I
élő
think
halott.
you're
Tudom.
talking about the story and
yeah.
Lehet, hogy majd ő adja a
yeah,
questet, vagy
you guys,
ilyesmi.
those of you who probably tuned in during the live stream for Extra Life last November,
Carphinban lesz.
got a little bit of history and story around Carphin.
Ugye a
Carphin is
Carphinos
a
lore-t
very
is meg tudjátok
large
nézni
dungeon
YouTube-on, azt már
complex. It's
lefordítottuk.
both, an urban
Amit
area
az
at the
24 órás
base
streamben
and then
adta.
a huge mega dungeon with lots of different levels.
Ez NPC skin, te ezt nem lehet megvenni. Az NPC-nek a skinje. Aki valahogy, valamit majd csinál, gondolom, az questet adja, vagy ilyesmi. Akármit is csinál. Az nem játékos fegyver volt szerintem. Ó, ez meg téli hacuka. Ezt a sivatagban nevet fel, megsülsz. Ó, micsoda szörmés cucc már.
And they kind of helped establish and taught the humans how to master the essence and how to master magic. And this was one of the great
Ugye ott Carphinban tanulták meg, hogy kell kezelni az eszenciát, meg hogy kell használni a varázslatokat.
They're going to be arcane in nature. They're going to be representative of that essence magic and it's going to have some powerful
Úgyhogy az ottani dolgok, azok mind ilyen mágikusak lesznek majd, nem?
This is a dropped set, so this is not a NPC outfit. This is like a thing that you will achieve in game.
Ja, hogy ezt meg lehet szerezni a játékban. Aha, akkor ez loot. Vagy megszerezhető, vagy lekraftolható, vagy nem is tudom. Nem craft, azt mondta, hogy megszerezhető.
This is the River Stalker, which I already saw y'all. I've shown
River Stalker.
but it's very, very cool.
Ez is valami mobnak a cucca.
And then I don't know if we want to say who this
I
is.
love that fur.
Yeah, I
Na
know.
jó, az a szörm. Ő most a telefonján nézi.
Boots is it boots with the fur?
It is. There are some.
Izé, a
boots
csizma is
There are
szörmókos.
boots with the fur?
We have a lot of
What?
boots with the
Nem,
fur. I think
megszerezhető.
people like boots with the fur. This next one
Játékban.
is. Do we want to say who she is? I have her name, but I
Ó,
didn't
te ki
know if we
vagy?
wanted to share that yet.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because there have been people who have been wondering who this lady is, but we haven't.
I think we saved that. I
saved
don't
the name?
know.
Okay.
Nem mondja
You
meg,
know,
hogy ki
I
ez.
think next month when we do.
De lehet, hogy a fő varázslónő, akiről a lore-ban szóltak.
Expand
Well,
on
this
that a
is-
bit.
Okay.
Are you talking? I don't know if I'm looking.
És így maradt a varázslat közben, vagy nem
This
tudom.
is a
De ugye
different
egy nő volt a
person.
vezetője az
The other
iskolának.
person we have talked about during the
Right. No,
actual
I'm not
class.
talking about the
Her.
raid boss.
Okay.
I'm yeah. I'm talking about the influence
Úgyhogy,
of the previous deans of the
Yes.
college.
Okay,
Yes.
cool, I will not say her name then.
Lehet, hogy ő a fő varázslónő.
And then we've got Laria Lamont, which we have
Laria.
talked about before.
Yes, she was the primary protagonist become antagonist.
Nem, ez a fő varázslónő. Ó, az anyja.
Live stream with Extra Life, and now you can see her character model.
Ezt a rohadt milyen jól néz ki.
She is a very powerful wizard.
Erős varázsló.
Unfortunately, in her desire to save as many as possible, went down a path.
Ugye
that
félre
was,
sikerült a varázslata.
unfortunately recoverable for her. And
Mint az a nő, az előbbi.
more about that also next
Yeah.
month.
I feel like this is what you would hear
Mm,
from her. Just
hasonlít egy kicsit, de nem teljesen szerintem.
Just the morning, yeah, absolutely.
Igen, tudom.
Um,
Hasonlít rá
And then
talán egy
we've
kicsit,
got,
de ott valami más izé.
some concept art that we will show.
Ez nagyon jól néz ki ez az NPC.
In the
De biztos valami raid boss lesz, és
Features
ez lesz
that
a
I can fix
főboss
her.
esetleg, vagy nem tudom, vagy valamelyik
I
főboss.
just imagine players saying that as they're rushing. to
Ez
top of the tower.
Carphin, tudja, hogy ez is Carphin.
And then we've got the Aelin
Nem.
city. Kind of see a little bit here.
Ez
Oh
ami...
yeah, you get to see a little bit of the grandiose nature of the starting city in
kezdőterület.
the Aelin Empire. So this was the former
Ez a
capital
korábbi, ugye, nagy
of the
birodalomnak
Aelin
volt a
Empire,
fővárosa,
and this is where players are
kezdőterület.
returning to, if you choose that particular divine gateway.
Hogyha ezt a portált választjuk, akkor innen fogunk kezdeni.
Because we were trying to see like the space, and it's just massive.
It is a
Um,
massive.
már ő
area,
a
and to-
gonosz, de
and
mindegy.
again, the reason why it's so large and why this might be very atypical for us as players to experience in
Igen,
such a
az volt olyan
starting
valami
area,
darabokból állt.
something so big is because this place changes based on what you do in the world. and different
Változik ahhoz,
areas
mert
of
hogy mit
this
csinálok a
city
világban.
become accessible as the world develops further, and there's reasons for you to come back at later levels and kind of
Úgyhogy későbbi
experience that,
szinteken is
because
érdemes visszajönni,
again,
mert
part of
más
what
dolgok
makes,
lesznek
I
ott.
think, the system design around these nodes and world building so compelling from an MMORPG specific
Hát
perspective
elvileg a kezdőterületek
is
nem
that
olyanok lesznek,
many
hogy
MMOs we
kezdesz, és akkor
play,
soha az életben nem mész vissza,
we go through
hanem
progression
mindig
and we leave
érdemes
areas and we
visszamenni.
never go back to those areas. They become essentially, content that gets lost. And that's such a sad concept to have,
Mert nem
because
szereti, amikor
a lot of
területekre
time goes into making those
átfutunk rajtuk,
areas
aztán sosem
compelling
megyünk
and
vissza, mert az olyan
beautiful and,
szomorú.
something that's iconic
Tehát
in your
mindenhova
experience
tesznek
within
olyan
the game.
dolgokat, amik miatt
But
érdemes
the way
visszamenni.
that our world progresses and that our points of interest progress as well, those areas are constantly
Tehát
being
ugye, ahogy
updated,
változik a
they're
világ,
constantly changing,
meg
and you're
fejlődik, ezek
maintaining
is
that
fejlődni fognak.
traditional experience of character progression and leveling for new players that are coming and joining later, but now they're
Tehát ugye
immersed in
megőrzik
the
azt is, hogy az
social
új
environment as
játékosok
well,
kik
because
lépnek
the
be,
player population hasn't
de
moved past
a
that area like we see in
fejlettebb
many other
játékosoknak is érdemes
MMORPGs.
lesz
You have
visszamenni.
an opportunity to actually graduate into that social environment because this area has opportunity for late game players to come back and explore and experience things.
Yeah, the persistence in our world is a little bit different. So, what my experience as a new player is might be different from someone else's, especially if we both start playing it at a different
Meg ugye
time frame.
mindenkinek más
Yes.
lehet az élmény, attól függ,
And
hogy
this
hol
is concept,
kezdi
because I
meg.
know some people were asking. This is concept, but I'm all
Ja, ez nem
like,
modell,
if
ez
you've already
konceptál.
seen the
Oh, our concepts to
Yeah, they look pretty-
implementation are very one-to-one.
if you've seen some of our other concepts and then our in-game,
De hát
they're
tudjuk, hogy
pretty
a
great,
játékbeliek
because
azok még
our
jobbak, mint a
artists are
konceptál
phenomenal. But,
találban.
I've
Én
already
belefutatnak,
seen some of this being
nem.
very boxed in the world, like I said, we were running around.
Hát ha mondjuk rossz helyre megy, akkor lehet.
And then there's also the starting the
Ez a
alien
kezdő
portal area,
portál,
which
ez is ilyen
we've already
érdekes.
started seeing in game.
Amit a beszippantaná az épületet.
You can see like the little people for the scale.
Olyan picik az emberek ott a portálhoz képest.
And that is
So, Battier Pierce said, "The Stargate." It's a
Olyan, mint a
design game,
Stargate.
right? Difference. I do love Stargate though.
I
Én
know,
a kapu.
I like Stargate too. There's an RPG for Stargate, which I've gotten to play. It's really fun.
Oh, that's cool.
But yes, no Stargate.
Nem Stargate.
With that, we're gonna head into our
Ez már
Q&A
volt.
segment. I'll have some images up
Kérdések.
in the background while we do Q&A.
Kérdések, aztán jön a teaser, hogy mit
Jaffa
tízeltek,
Creek.
annyira kíváncsi leszek. Jó, az Jaffa Creek.
That's so good.
With that, we have our first question from
Hopp. Upsili. Upsili, mupsili.
Rufin. They want to know
foot.
about ranged weapons, which is what will
Távolsági
be the
fegyverek.
differences between a crossbow and a regular bow?
Ezt már elmondták, mi
I
lesz
think
a
we've talked about
különbség a
short bow versus
cross.
a long bow,
Yeah, we
but-
don't have
Crossbow meg
have
a
crossbows.
sima
However, bows of different types
íjak között.
will vary
De crossbow nem
across
lesz.
many different
Ha-ha.
sets, between
De különböző íjak
damage
lesznek,
that's done,
és azoknak
damage
különböző
window that's
statjuk lesz.
possible,
Ugye rövid íj, hosszú íj.
the attack speed,
Ostor, hát az,
stats that are
hát
associated
az,
with those particular types of weapons. And not only that, but
lesz olyan skill szerintem, ami olyan, mint az talán a Clericnek volt olyan skill, ami olyan, mint volt, mint egy ostor. Szóló. Szóló, nem emlékszel? Azt hiszem Clericnek volt az ostor skillje, nem?
Associated skill progression, where you can unlock the ability to proc certain types of effects.
Kinek volt az ostor
And
skillje?
they
Az
also
Clericnek
have
volt
associated
szerintem,
with them
úgy
different,
emlékszem.
combos,
Nem biztos.
that can be utilized.
A hílelős
And you
ostor.
know what? The chat is right. I got excited to get into the Q&A that I missed the studio update again. Normally I'm like looking at the run of show, but I just
Ja,
kinda
megint
bypassed
kihagyta a
it.
stúdió update-et.
Yeah, do you have any updates for us for the studio?
De most rákérdez.
I know we talked a little bit about the fun stuff we were doing for February, but
Yeah,
Ja, beszéltek a
about that.
partikról
We are
februárban.
now moving into, well, we have moved into as of last month and this month.
Igen, volt egy
another
ostoros,
round of
ostorszerű
significant
skill.
hiring. You can
Gárda
see
is volt.
that on our intrepidstudios.com website.
Szerintem az nem igaz ostor, hanem ilyen energia. De jól nézett ki. Hílelős ostorcsapás.
Many of you, as we are aware of the kind of turbulent times that the tech industry is seeing right now with the
Ugye eléggé
layoffs from different studios.
viharos a helyzet a játékiparban, mert egy csomó stúdió megszűnik, vagy elbocsátja az embereket.
gaming industry is an industry of passion, and it is an industry of creatives who deserve an opportunity to excel in their work and feel confident and secure in their position and the jobs that they have. And it's a sad thing to see when those
És
things
nagyon szomorú nézni,
happen,
hogy
but at
ilyen
Intrepid Studios,
elbocsátások
we
történnek.
endeavor to be different, and I think we've done a great and sustainable way to kind of proceed with this game's development. And I want to
És
kind
ők
of shout out
úgy
the
érzi,
fact
hogy
that
ők
we have
megtalálták azt az
opportunities at the
egyensúlyt, ami
studio. Yes, we are
így
very
fent tudják tartani a
selective, and
játéknak a
the recruitment process
fejlesztését, meg
can be a
úgy
bit difficult, but
lőtték be az emberek felvételét.
to those people out there who are affected, you can send your applications.
Meg küldjék be, minden kirúgott ember küldje be a
jobs that are available. If you
az
don't see
önéletrajzát
one that
hozzájuk, és
pertains to you
hát
necessarily, you can still provide your resume, and
hát felveszik
we'll
őket.
consider those. So that hiring process is moving forward. Additionally, we've had some.
On that front, I just want to mention that
yeah.
on the careers page, there is an uncategorized section that says,
Yes.
don't see your position, you can still apply, and apply through that one right there.
Absolutely. And then in addition to that, we've been changing up a little bit some of our production practices over the course since the start of this new year. We are now seeing in the month of February the fruits of those changes, which
Meg
are
egy
bountiful,
pár ilyen
and we are very
munkafolyamat
happy with,
változtatást is
some of these
bevezettek,
production changes that we've
és
seen.
egyelőre jónak
Spearheading
tűnnek.
that charge has been doing a great job in that sense. So the studio update is very strong in February.
Úgyhogy
Very strong indeed.
Yeah.
jó események történtek
Exciting
februárban. Na, vissza a kérdésekhez.
And moving back to the Q&A segment, I do want to ask a follow-up question in regards to you, because you stated there aren't crossbows, but we have sold crossbow-looking items. Are those considered short bows, or
yes,
how?
those would
They
be
look
those
like
would be
crossbows.
considered skins, and they.
Ugye voltak crossbow-szerű
That's a good
skinek,
question. Let me check into that actually, because I don't know specifically what you're in reference to, and I would want to make sure I'm giving an accurate answer. So I will look.
de erre majd visszatér, mert most így hirtelen nem tudja, hogy melyik skin volt crossbow.
To a different weapon category that's not a crossbow category.
Okay.
Valószínűleg egy másik fegyver kategóriára lehet majd ráhúzni.
Yes, and then we'll post that answer on the forums.
De majd kiírják ezt később, hogy mi volt ez.
Post that as a response.
De volt crossbow skin, nem is rémlik.
Is that a thing on the bingo card that Stephen got stumped on a question?
Ja, hogy rajta van ez a bingo kártyán, ugye mindig van csinálok ilyen bingo kártyát, hogy mi lesz benne a streamben. Volt ilyen, hogy Steven dodge egy kérdést.
Yeah. They're actually very difficult to pull that string
back. Bows in
back.
general are hard to pull back. If you've
one time like my initial
hogy nehéz
like,
kezelni a
archery,
crossbow-kat
I
alapból.
pulled it back and I shot the arrow up and it went over the shooting range, and I could have sworn I heard somebody scream, but yeah, that was a
egyszer átlőtte a
I was trying to derail
lövészterület.
the bingo card could
lövészterületet íjjal, és megeskedni, hogy hallotta valakit.
Digital Daydream wants to know about player corruption. Are corrupted players able to enter a freehold's boundaries or access its content? And if so, what's stopping freeholds from being corrupted players' safe havens? I actually kind of love this idea where like you're on the run and you're like, gotta stay in your house.
So corrupted players can access their freeholds.
Can they access other people's freeholds?
Well, freeholds are in the open world, so you can move into those freeholds.
Bemehetnek ilyen corrupted playerek a freeholdunkba.
What corrupted players can't do is they cannot interface with storage, nor can they interface with
Hát ha úgy van, akkor bemehetnek, csak nem tudnak hozzájutni a dolgaithoz.
So if they had storage items that were on their freehold, they wouldn't have the opportunity to deposit or withdraw.
All right. Hopefully that answers the question there. And then we have Ethlove, who wants to know about class-specific actions. What kind and how many special or unique activities can we expect classes to perform outside of combat, such as rogues opening locks, tracking
eztek olyan klassz képességek, amik harcon kívül működnek. Amin a rugó kinyitja az árakat. Ezt mondták, hogy lesz.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's funny that this question exists because just 30 minutes ago I was talking about those utility abilities. like finding tracks or cleansing poisons,
Ez a
arcane eye to
méregtakarítás,
passages.
csapda,
You know, the
kiiktatás,
idea is
zárítás,
how do
mindenféle
we
ilyesmi.
blend the traditional tabletop RPG role of utility and or skill checks into the setting of a graphical MMORPG.
Ugye néhány ilyen
And
asztali
I
szerepjátékos
think
dolgot
that
is
it's both a
behoznának a
complement
játékba.
of
Mint például ezek.
the skill kit that's available and how it interacts with the world for those curated or special designs
Hát, sok sikert!
within these locations. So to answer that question, that is intended. We've shown a little bit of that in the past, and it is something that we want to make feel compelling and rewarding and viable as a use case scenario in many different settings that you might find yourself in within the world.
And not a question that's on here, but I will add it as a bonus one because the ranged weapon one didn't get answered. But we are
No, hát ez
moving to
biztos nem lehet.
5.1. I know a lot of people were asking about that. We're constantly keeping an eye on, you know, the latest
Actually, that's
engines.
been a big endeavor over the course of the last, I would say, about 6 weeks. And you know, just to give you guys a bit of context, if you're unfamiliar kind of with the game development process, engine upgrades can be a very taxing process. It especially becomes so given how many custom changes that a project makes to the engine. Making those merges over can be kind of a bit of a headache.
Ja, az engine update az eléggé bonyolult dolog. És ez hogy jött el?
Has been spearheading that process for the network changes along with Mitch. And it took a little bit longer for us to make that move over because we
kicsit tovább tartott az átállás, mint gondolták.
and then the 5.1.1 update dropped with a lot of great
És mivel az 5.1-es egy csomó jó dologgal érkezett, azt is néztük ugye már korábban. Tehát az 1.1-esre lépnek át.
Yes, today. So last night we did our build lock, like Steven said, for the last 6 weeks we've been working towards this.
5.1.1-es.
The next sprint for that team is going to be focusing on bug fixing. So yesterday we locked the build. We got a good dev build.
Meg van egy fejlesztői buildjük, aminek most a hibajavításán dolgoznak.
Hopefully everything will go well and we'll be able to
És reméljük, hogy minden jól működik.
and then we should be unlocking again on Monday so people can check things in. I know designers are like, why? But just bear with us one day, guys. And we're doing a lot of testing. We'll probably have a few bugs so throughout the first couple weeks, but we'll work at those resolved.
And just so you guys know that what Margaret's referring to when she says check-ins and locking, essentially our source control method utilizing Perforce is how kind of developers make things and they submit those things into Perforce. And right now locking that down means that we're not allowing any additional changes so that we can solidify that 0.1.1 update.
Otherwise you're merging into
Ez ugye most azt jelenti, hogy nem változtatnak rajta semmit, kivitják a hibákat, és akkor utána folytatják.
Yeah, we know what the basis is, and then as we merge in, we'll be okay. But yeah, the testing, I haven't looked at what the test results have been from that full regression test yet. I'll probably see that by the end of the today. And then if everything goes well, Monday we should be rocking and rolling. And we'll just be doing a lot of bug fixing for the next couple of weeks.
I know a lot of artists that are very excited to get their hands on the 0.1.1 update.
Sokan rábírják tenni a kezüket az 5.1.1-es frissítésekre, meg lehetőségekre.
Knocking down the doors like, what are we gonna
But we had like our IntrepidNet stuff and things, so like there was just a lot of things that we were trying to resolve before we pushed that up. So but we're good now. We're moving up, and we know there's going to be some bugs. That's a little
bit of a studio update, by the way.
Yeah,
there you go.
That should have been.
Yeah, ez a kellemes studio update
going on all the time, so we're constantly working towards things, homies. But go back to the Q&A here. We do have a question from Rushis, who wants to know about racial abilities. Will any of your race or class choices affect your artisan skills?
Hatnak-e majd a fai vagy klassz választások a craft képességekre, vagy craft?
It is entirely possible that it might. The concern there, though, would be that we want equitability across race types with at least the benefits that, not the benefit types, but at least that you're having some benefits, so that when we
Mm.
talk about like, a crafter being pigeonholed into a specific type of race that might not align with what they want to do elsewhere,
Hát ez
they
még nem
aren't forced to do
teljesen
that
eldöntve, de
because of
lehet,
a
hogy
specific
lesznek
racial
ilyen
ability that only that
előnyök,
race
vagy
has
ilyesmi.
access to. So, one thing we've talked about in the past is replacing the racial abilities with more of a background style where you get to select your
Beszéltek arról
background
is, hogy nem
regardless of
faji
race. And so
képességek
those
lesznek, hanem
two
minden
aren't tied
háttér, mint
intrinsically, but
a
instead it's like,
D&D-ben tudjátok,
I'm
hogy
an orphan who was raised in the temple,
kiválasztod, hogy mit
therefore I
tudom én,
have
te egy
this
árról vagy,
racial trait,
aki
right?
I'm an urchin.
itt ott nőtt fel,
Right,
akkor ilyen,
exactly. I think that's
ez
probably the
ilyen
direction that we're going
jellemződ
to
lesz.
go in.
Vagy hogyha egy nemesi házban nőttél fel, akkor olyan,
answer your
ilyesmi.
question.
Perfect. And then we've got Halcyon Days who wants to know about the threat meters. Will there be a threat
Agrometer?
meter of any kind, such as a tank-only ability or aura within a certain range?
Well, I know that this is a highly contentious topic.
Ez egy
DPS
veszélyes
meter,
kérdés.
tank
I
meter.
know. I'm gonna
They
give
like
you my
meters, Steven.
I'm gonna give you
Nem
my
szeretjük a
subjective
métereket.
perspective here. Is that meters, in my opinion, are a removal from
Ő se szereti a métereket. Yes!
the game immersion.
Elvesznek a
And
beleélési
what
faktorból.
I mean by that isn't necessarily even the fact that having the meter kind of takes you out of the game per se, but there's a lot of diegetic kind of approach that you can take that doesn't rely on UI elements like a meter to kind of indicate how you should do a thing. And when you're not utilizing those types of meters, you can do different types of strategies and encounter design, right? You
Hogy
can
lehet
have things that
különböző
can be more
stratégiák
subtle and aren't
lehetnek,
gonna be
meg
immediately given
hozzá,
away by a meter indicating
vagy megoldási módok
and
bizonyos
that's
problémákra.
the type of
Nem
gameplay
csak
that
az, hogy
we
minél nagyobb a
think that
tüs, vagy minél
that I
nagyobbat
believe we want to emphasize, and for
védj,
that
vagy akármi.
reason, we're not going to be including threat
Tehát
meters.
nem lesznek
What we will be
méterek.
including, however, are animation indicators.
De lesznek
We're
ilyen
going to be
animációs jelzők.
including, ability indicators to kind of show the tank like,
Tehát
hey,
például a tank látni fogja, hogy mit
I
tudom
might
én,
be losing aggro here. Like I'm observing in the
úgy
world
tűnik, mintha
these
elvesztenéd az
immersive
agrót,
elements that are not tied to any specific type of
stb.
UI,
stb. És akkor
but
tud rá
indicate to
reagálni.
me that this monster might be moving off to attack somebody else in a very immediate future. And now I should be using the abilities that I'm saving to kind of regain that aggro or to lock them down with a taunt or something, right? That to me is a bit more representative of the type of gameplay we want
Szerintem az jobban beleillik a
to
játék
bring in our encounter
menetbe,
design.
mint egy ilyen
And
méter
for that
akármi.
reason, that's why we're not
Ilyen
including,
mérőszámos, vagy
threat meters.
mérős.
Now, that's different than a
Tudsz.
DPS meter, right? The DPS meter to me was
DPS
more
meter az
about
meg
kind of what role DPS meters provide in online communities that I've noticed in the past in my
az meg
experiences.
ugye, hát eléggé,
They can be a bit toxic,
is
they can
mondjam,
be a bit exclusive.
rosszra is használható dolog.
Excuse me. And that's why we don't want the DPS meters.
Úgyhogy nem, azért nem
The
akar
threat
DPS méter.
meters is we want to indicate threat. We want to tell you, hey, you might be losing threat. We just don't want to do that through a meter.
Kérdezni fogják, hogyha a tank, mit tudom én, agrót vesz, de az nem egy agrométerrel fogja
Will all
megcsinálni.
creatures be hostile? And if not, could I, for example, give gifts to goblins to try and make them more friendly to me?
Adhatok-e például ajándékokat a goblinoknak, hogy jobban szeressenek? Nem lesz mindenki ellenséges.
Taming and or certain types of like creature gather
Ugye lehet majd idomítani is.
There are herds
Nem
that
goblinokat
exist out
most
there. There
konkrétan.
are big game that exists out there where they're not going to aggro and attack you per se. Also lower level monsters and certain type of like social monsters may not attack you off the bat.
Tehát nem biztos, hogy minden mob megtámad majd így azonnal.
We toyed with the idea early on of having kind of faction-based reputation.
Lesznek repuk is lesznek. Tehát különböző csoportok jobban szeretnek, vagy kevésbé.
That live within nodes and our merchant guilds or whatever. We haven't extended that out to the monster population. And I don't know that we will in the first iteration or the first in the initial launch for Ashes of Creation. That might be something that we delegate to a future patch. I'm not opposed to the idea. I think it's a cool idea. I think it's interesting. I think it can be compelling and it plays into player agency.
Mondjuk az ötlet nem rossz szerintem, de
yeah, not for the first go round.
It's an endeavor. And then Drunk Ninja wants to know about tanks and boats. How will tanks hold threat on monsters while on a boat?
Hogyan tartja majd az agrót a tank egy
That's a
hajón?
good question.
Ez egy jó kérdés.
So, there's a few ways that you can do that.
Hát ennek több módja is.
One is boats have attachments that live on them. Those
A
can
hajóknak
be
vannak
potion
ilyen
launchers. They could be other types of damage
kiegészítői.
Attachments. And users who are on the boat and utilizing those types of attachments will have the damage assigned as a threat.
És
Essentially, it's
ezekkel
hate to them. So if I'm shooting the potion
akkor
launcher and I shoot a target,
meghalt.
the damage I do gets assigned to me as threat, essentially. But in addition,
Don't get
Tehát
those
a
bad
kiegészítők
potions.
sebezhetik is mondjuk
I
a
know, well, I
vízi
love
boszt,
potion
és
launchers,
akkor
sorry.
az is agrót
In
generál.
addition, you might have unique ammunition that can be used
Meg
which
lehet
amplify that
speciális
threat. But that doesn't
lőszer.
discount the fact that your skill sets can still be used on boats and or in
Belefullad
the
a
water.
vízbe.
So as a tank, I'll have ranges on my taunts and on my
Ugye lesznek
hate
távolsági
generation abilities.
agró skillek is.
And I'm going to be expected to use those rotations in a nautical setting or on land. So I think that that's acceptable. Outside of that, I would say it's going to be relatively normal mechanics when it comes to threat generation and utilizing your skill sets and rotations.
All right. And then we've got a question here from Nick about detargeting. Will there be detargeting abilities in Ashes of Creation?
Lesz olyan skill,
Yes,
amitől
there will be
ledobod a
target abilities,
célpontot.
in Ashes of Creation. I think
Mhm.
that one of the main applications for the ability to kind of detarget, in my opinion, there's two types of detargeting. There's the
Két típus van.
ability to remove hate or
Az egyik ugye az
aggro
agról
from
dobás,
myself, which might
ugye ez
transit an
DPS-eknél jó.
enemy target or pacify them. But then in addition, if we think about PvP settings and the
PvP-ben
role
meg
of taunt or hate, a lot of times for tanks in the MMOs that I've played, there where you have a PvE and PvP scenario, those types of hate generation abilities don't really have cross application into the PvP realm.
Nem igazán
And that can
működ,
feel kind of
tehát nincs
bad,
hatásuk az agró
because
skilleknek PvP-ben
typically
igazából.
a tank build out
Általában.
can be delegated around how I generate hate. And if it has no cross application into PvP, then effectively you're creating a class composition that just is
Tehát gyakorlatilag a tag az félig
relevant in half of the game
értelmetlen a
or in that
PvP-ben
area of the game.
általában.
So when we talk about how we're going to apply hate to player targets or taunt to player targets, sometimes that can move into the realm of target switching or the ability to command that target on the tank in PvP scenario as well. That's something that we need to get player
átváltozhat ilyen
feedback on
targetváltás, vagy
because there's a lot
célpontváltásban.
of strong emotions around that type of mechanic. I, for one, am a big proponent of that. I think it's interesting. I think that it plays into the role of the tank, and that it
És a tank
hits
át tudja
class
venni
fantasy
rád,
that most tank
rólad
players want
leszedni
to
a
feel.
játékosnak a
And I think, however, on the flip side of that, it is a
célpontját.
source of control. And anytime you're under
Érdekes.
the effects of some source of control, it's going to be a feel bad moment for the target that's being controlled.
Tehát a tank át tudná venni egy játékosról egy másik játékosnak azt, hogy kitargetelte az a játékos a másikat. Ez még érdekes.
How you feel about those types of mechanics.
All right. And then we've got a question about the summoner from The Pepper. How will the summoner interact
Hát
with
most azt mondta, hogy
threat
targetváltás.
management? For example, would each summon
Tehát én
have
ezt úgy
their
képzelem
own
el, hogy
threat
mit
level?
tudom én, az agro skillt elnyomja a tank, és akkor átforszolódik az egyik játékos, tehát az ellenfél játékosnak a célzása átmegy a tankra. És ledobódik az előző játékosról például, érted? Így automatikusan. Tehát ő ütni akarja a healert, a tank elnyomja a skilljét, és akkor ez most a PvP bot, igen. Mert ugye ott az agró skilleknek nincs értelmük általában. És ez valami olyasmit mondott, hogy targetváltást eredményez. Tehát mondom, úgy tudom elképzelni, hogy az ellenfél PvP játékos támadja a healeredet, és akkor a tank elnyomja az agró skilljét, és akkor automatikusan átvált az ellenfél játékos célzása a tankra a healerről, érted? És nem tud vele mit csinálni, mert átváltott. Itt tovább x ideig. Ki nem figyel.
Shit, I lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that one.
Elfelejtettem, mit akart mondani.
It was a long night last night. I think I went to bed at about 4 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Most mondtam, hogy mit
Some
mondtál.
people were saying you look kind of tired, and that makes sense.
Ja, reggel 4-kor feküdt le, úgyhogy egy kicsit álmos.
So I don't come to Vegas too often, and I came and I do like to play poker. And
Ja, és pókerezett, lol.
My last meeting ended
Las
last
Vegasban
night
van.
at like 11:30, and I was walking past
Fél
the poker room, and I was
12-ig
like,
volt
there's like some poker games. I'm like,
meetingje,
okay,
aztán
poker, and I ended up staying
sétált
till
egy
like 4 in the
póker
morning.
terem mellett, és beült, és
Oh,
4-ig
really?
játszott.
Yeah.
Lol.
Throwing the dice is fun. It gets a little bit a little hectic sometimes at those tables. Sorry.
És most
anyways,
álmos,
where
úgyhogy
I was
elfelejtettem,
going
mit
with
akartam mondani.
the summoner.
Summoner. There's different.
Yeah.
Depending on the type of pet. you
Yeah, depending on the type of
choose, yeah.
summon, you'll have access to those types of abilities. So
Ja,
yes,
hogy
that
a
is intended
summonernek
as a
a
mechanic for the summons.
egyétől függ majd, hogy milyen skilleket ér el a
Hopefully
pet.
that answered your guys' question. Basically, I think the main thing was would each summon have their own threat level versus
És
like
minden petnek
me
lesz
as a
majd,
summoner
mármint a
having,
megidézett
like,
No,
all
the
my
summoner
the
petnek
summon
lesz
will have
a
its own hate.
saját
There you go.
agró
Yeah,
szintje.
that's the
Yeah.
answer. And
Yes.
Ezra was wondering about death in war.
And by the way, that's not just for summons. That's also for combat pets as well.
Ja, ez a harci
which
petekre
is
is
an
érvényes.
agnostic class. That those are considered its own entity on the hate list.
And this question is, are the death
Thanks,
penalties for losing to guild war opponents in PvP equivalent to the combatant ones, or the non-combatant ones, or something else altogether?
No,
And I think this
those are-
stems from, because in sieges we stated that you wouldn't drop things the same way, and death
Gét
penalties
háborúkban
wouldn't
más
be
lesz
the same
a
as in the
büntetéskezelés, mint a
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. So again, we have to think about those
Sima,
penalties applied
open world-ös
in
harc, PvP-ben.
two different realms. In a sanctioned event, sanctioned meaning that this is something you have the
Tehát az előre
option to
meghatározott
opt
PvP
out of.
eseményekben
That's
de
castles,
az
that's
ostromok,
node siege,
a
that's a caravan, that's a guild war,
karavánok,
that's a node war.
a
Like,
guild
you can drop your
háborúk,
citizenship, you can drop your guild tag, you can drop participating in one of those things. In any of those types of opt-in and opt-out events, the death penalties do not exist. These are sanctions.
nincsenek,
They're
nincsenek
intended to
büntetések, hogyha
allow you
meghalsz.
to engage in PvP, right? Now, if I die to an NPC while I'm out hunting,
Hogyha egy
or
NPC
if I
megöl,
die
amikor
to another
elmentem
player
vadászni,
through the flagging system,
vagy megtámad egy játékos, mikor elmentem
those
vadászni,
are where death penalties come
akkor
into play.
van büntetés,
And
ha
that's where
meghalsz.
debt experience can be earned, and that's where corruption can be had. So it's important to kind of separate those two realms.
All right. And that is our final question.
Most a kérdés?
We are going to wrap things up, but stay around for the end video. Got a little,
Hát
Are
a
we
Dix
gonna
Mix.
sign off with the teaser?
yeah, sign off with the teaser.
Ooh, okay,
I think
cool.
that's fun. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think
Teaser,
it's
na.
fun.
Mit
Everybody
akartak
chants like,
belengetni?
teaser now! Just to
Teaser,
see
give
what-
me the teaser. All right, with that,
Na.
we just want to remind you to check
Ott a cica
out
az ágyú.
over on our forums,
Ja,
forums.ashesofcreation.com.
tudom.
We'd love for your feedback, especially on the UI stuff that you saw today. We will have our Songs of the Goddess cosmetic swapping over on March 8th. We also have a really cool calendar if you want to check that out over on ashesofcreation.com/.
Csak, hogy mit akarnak belengetni.
You can download it and you can have a full year calendar for yourself with some really cool
Ha már ennyire
Ashes of Creation.
elmondták, hogy
Very
5-ször, hogy
lovely
tízelünk valamit a
artwork to
végén.
say. And of course, we want to say thank you to all of
Hogy
you for
vigyorok.
tuning in and watching. We really appreciate your support and your continued support following along with our journey through development. We know, not a lot of companies do this, so sharing our development progress is definitely a long-term journey. Making games is not an easy
Yes.
feat as much as people think it may be, and we will launch when we are ready. We assure you that our focus is making a great quality game, and we hope that you will have fun whenever we are able to
Én nem
get your
mondta.
hands on it in Alpha 2.
Yay.
Most még elmondja, hogy a
And we also
szokásos
want to say thank you to
végét
Colby for joining
Hogy-
us and sharing all the good UI stuff. And his
dolgoznak,
lovely team.
meg várják a
And
visszajelzéseket,
Steven,
stb.
thank you
stb.
for your time. I know you're very busy, but we
Na, mondjátok a
appreciate
teaser.
it. We hope that you all stay safe and healthy. The VOD will be up on Twitch right away after we are done here, and then we'll also upload it to
teaser?
our YouTube channel. And if you
a
leave us a
teaser?
comment on our on the development update, and you subscribe to our channel, you may be spotlighted as one of our winners to be spotlighted in our next dev update next month. And of course, follow us on all the places: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all the places. We're everywhere. We constantly are posting almost every day. for you
Szerintem
guys,
valami
so
kis
we
rövid
hope
izé
that
lesz,
you
szerintem,
enjoy
vagy nem
that.
tudom.
And with that,
Jön a teaser.
you enjoy a little teaser of what's to come in our next stream.
Következő
Bye,
streamből.
guys, enjoy!
Mi lesz? Carphin valami? Szerintem. Igen. De akkor márciusban lesz a Carphin-es bemutató. Yeah! Ott a szobor. Oké. Ott volt az a szobor szóló, akkor az valami istennő lehet, nem? Hát ez, ja, ez egy, vagy egy Insta, vagy egy raid Insta. Akkor viszont lehet, hogy tényleg köze van a sivatagi szoborhoz, mert az is valami istennő volt. Igen, úgyhogy lehet, hogy van köze hozzá. Na majd ezt kiderítjük! Most viszont ugrok, mert már... Bocsánat, mert már itt nagy rebellió van, mert éjjel akarnak halni a ticákok, szóval köszönöm szépen, hogy itt voltatok. Holnap feltöltöm a YouTube-ra a streamfordítóst, és akkor... Esetleg lemaradtatok valami részre, akkor vissza tudjátok nézni. No. És akkor találkozunk holnap valamivel elvileg, bár még nem 100%. Addig is kellemes pénteket, és jók legyetek. Sziasztok!